now 7:16, and I will take a motion to call to order the Hamilton Select Board meeting for March 2nd.
So moved.
So we have a motion by Ben. Can I get a second?
Second.
And we'll do a roll call vote to move into our meeting, starting with you, Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Galuzza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. So, to try to catch up a little bit, there are a ton of board openings and committees. I encourage everyone to read through those, and if you have the time to get involved. We do have one item on the consent agenda. It's an approval from the Little League for some sponsorship banners to be hung around the fields at Patton Park. So can I take a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Ben, a second.
Second.
Second by Rosie. Any further discussion or reasons why we might not want to consent this one?
Is it talking about putting the banners along the fencing? Is that what I understand it to be? Much the same as they do over at Pingree Park?
Yes, and really much the same as you've been doing here for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
If you have questions, Sean Timmons of the Recreation Department is on the Zoom and can answer questions. But this is something the board's been doing for the last 3 or 4 years at least.
Yeah, I think there might be some on the dugouts as well,
Yeah.
and some fencing. I think there's more fencing along Pingree than there would be here, but it's consistent with prior practice.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll take a roll call vote to approve the consent agenda. Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Galuzza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. So that is approved unanimously. Public comment, this is a time where anybody can get up and speak for no more than 3 minutes on any topic.
Emmett, public comment.
We do have time later for the stretch code and other items like that, so there'll be ample opportunity there, but you're welcome for this time as
Do
well.
you want comments on that at the time of that discussion, or do you want them now?
You want
I
me to
think
go
it can
first?
come either way. I mean, if there's some general wants to speak, happy to entertain them now, but we'll entertain them then as well.
Preference, or it doesn't matter.
That's been our practice, right? I mean,
Yeah.
For voting, no? Do
No,
it now?
you can
It's
allow
60
it now,
minutes
it's just
total.
that
Yeah. Okay.
I just want to ask you guys a quick question. So, there's a poster from me, did everyone get that?
Yes, we did, thank you.
And then this that Vicki put together?
Yeah, we have that right here as well.
All right, thank you.
A lot of good information. I know we had a long discussion last week, but we got a lot of good information from several people, so thank you for that.
All right, well, thank you. I'm Jeannie Miranda at 21 Garfield Avenue, and we appreciate the time that you folks are taking to listen to Hamilton Environmental Impact Committee and our work done to promote the specialized code, which, if passed tonight, will get on the warrant. Will then go to town meeting, and folks will have a chance to vote on that. And if that's affirmative, then we go forward to work on climate leader status. We also have planned 3 meetings to help educate both Hamilton and Wenham voters. This is already on the Wenham town warrant. And this one's called, what is the Specialized Stretch Building Code? And the one that HEIC is sponsoring is Thursday, March 5th from 6 to 7, the Hamilton Wenham Library Large Meeting Room. And we will have some folks from the DOER. Dylan Patel will be joining us for that to answer people's questions. And of course, that's what we want to hear. And we want to explain it, but also answer people's questions. And we might have some people joining us on Zoom tonight as well, too. And we do have some folks here to help support us. I just want to point out Kim Strovink is here from Hamilton Environmental Impact Committee. And Jack Whittier. Emmett has just recently stepped off the committee, but he is still supporting us 100%. So we are grateful for that. And we also want to mention that we have Bob Knowles, Heather Ryan, other folks here in support of going forward as climate leaders for both communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time?
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's nice to be here. I'm Jack Whittier, 35 Waldingfield Road, Hamilton. I'm the newcomer to the Environmental Impact Committee, and I'm going to keep it really brief. I'm basically benefiting from the work that everybody's done before me, and I think it's really well teed up for the specialized code, and the way it's teed up for subsequent work through the town. The climate leader status allows us to do things that are really great for the town, and from my perspective, taxpayer and controlling energy costs going forward, both for residents as well as for the school district. So look forward to the discussion.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Jack.
Emmett Holt, 2 Manor Hill Road. Glad to be back. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Emmett.
Did you guys all get the one-pager that you were asked for?
We did.
Yeah.
Very good. So what I really wanted to do, I've spoken enough about this energy code, but it's more important the other item that's on the agenda tonight, which is the new school roof. Because really the motivation for me personally as a taxpayer in the town and saving costs and all that is, you know, number one, taking care of our kids by putting a roof over their head and insulating the school better. And then number two, by energizing that roof, because I agree with Rosie 100% that, you know, National Grid is taking us to the cleaners, and we need to go back and collect $1 million of grant funding through them. And also, it's we're gonna, if we put rooftop solar, we're gonna save about $200 a year off of the tax bill for that cost. We then have free energy. That $200, if you just take half of it for Hamilton, that comes out to about $36 a year out of my taxes. So $1 million one time, I think I calculated with the help of ChatGPT, is about $325 that I get to save, and then another 30 some odd dollars a year that both Hamilton and Wenham people save. So I just really want to point out that it's not just about the stretch code. That's a really small thing. There are only 5 new houses a year that get built. And I did want to hand out one more thing, and I wanted to
We have
thank.
that as well.
We do have that. Appreciate it.
You got that? Okay. Those are all the 5 houses, what they had, and all of that. You know, I sat down with Rich and Dennis and Mary Ellen, who did a great job, 3 different visits to them. Those are their estimates of kind of what it's going to cost to upgrade those houses. The fact of the matter is, it's paid back in the first 8 to 10 years of the 30-year mortgage. And then from there on, it's free electricity after that. The cheapest answer for going forward, affordability is a huge, huge issue in housing and construction. And the cheapest thing for the homeowners to go with the all-electric house going forward with all of the credits and all that. So you're really doing a favor. Most people just out of habit want to have gas and all that. They can still do have the gas. But my question is, are you putting air conditioning in the house? Then is that air conditioning, heat pump air conditioning? Then you're already doing the ducting and all that kind of stuff, and you have a hybrid house already for heating, so it's going to be cheaper. So I just hope all you guys were asking is let the voters decide. That's really what the question is tonight. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it.
Hi,
Hi.
Deb Safford, Maple Street. So I just wanted to talk about the stretch code. Also, I know that it's going to be up later, but one of the things that my dad taught me when I was little, when we went to an ATM machine, is we went up and we saw this money pop out, and it was like, wow, the machine's giving us money, and he's like, no, it's the money I put in and I'm pulling out. The machine doesn't make money, and I bring that up because it's that concept of energy and electricity, and how if we put something, plug something in, it's kind of free and there's no consequence. But every time we plug something in, the energy is being created somewhere else. There's a consequence somewhere else. So the stretch energy code to me is a binding response to a non-binding resolution. So we're going to bind our residents for any kind of construction, any kind of renovation. We're binding them to doing something for a non-binding resolution in the town, which is burdening everybody. It's different when you're trying to vote as a community for putting solar panels on top of the roof of the school. Like, that's a great discussion. Like, let's have that. But to have the community vote for everybody for whatever happens to their renovations, I think is a complete overburdening of our population. The power grid is very old, it's vulnerable to attack, it's overly burdened. AI, we know, is just sucking up all the energy. We just had rolling brownouts and power outages for hours, 15 hours or something in Hamilton, maybe longer for others. The storm can shut it down. If people don't have other alternative sources of energy and heat, we're going to lose our residents. I mean, we had residents on my street who were ill because their house was so cold, right? And so if we have everything on one kind of format, which is very old and decrepit and very vulnerable, I think that that's going to become a risk. And the requirements also can change. Whatever the requirements are, they can change at the state's will, and then we have to keep doing it. It's very burdensome to the building person. It's very burdensome to the residents. You know, why? Why would we do this? And actually, all these reasons are why Essex revoked it. So I would...
A clarification, Essex didn't revoke the specialized stretch code. They chose not to adopt the stretch code and lost their green community status over it. But I had a conversation with the town administrator in Essex. I'd heard that was mentioned a couple times, specifically called Essex to find out what happened there. And the town administrator there assured me that they never had the stretch code and that they lost their green community status because
Okay.
of it. But they didn't vote it in and then vote it out. So.
Oh, it seemed like they had voted something that they're voting out, but whatever. So they understood that there was a burden to the community and risk. And I think that the label of having, green status is lovely, but it's really done so that we can have the possibility of future grants. And, in the spirit of the emperor has no clothes, our state has no money. And so to burden and handcuff our residents for something, for the hope of having some future money as a town edict, I think is doing a complete disservice to our community. Let the residents do it if they want to do it. Like, I have no problem if you want to do it, free will. But to make it an edict going forward and to bind us for this way, as opposed to encouraging people to make these decisions, I think it would be a much better strategy. So I'm really asking you guys, and I love the earth, I love the planet. I'm not a hater. I love our trees. Our trees actually need the carbon. Our trees need carbon. We need the oxygen from them. So there's a whole ecosystem. I love it. I wasn't in favor of the fields. I'm not crazy. I just think to make an edict for our residents is a burden that you guys can just stop and prevent. So I'm asking you to say no, to not put it, to not be in favor of it. I mean, maybe it's already on the warrant, but I'd ask you to not be in favor of it because we need to advocate. There's so many controversial things at this town meeting coming up. People are going to have, in terms of overrides, and, people are going to be thinking about their pocket. And I think this is another cost that's going to be unclear. It's a hard thing to have to read and figure out. So I'm really asking you to vote no on that and be gatekeepers for our taxpayers. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll remind everyone, this is public comment. We will have a larger discussion on this topic during our regular agenda item.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Beth Her, Asbury Street. I actually talked to the select chairman from Essex and I watched the video where they did repeal from the stretch code. They never had the specialized stretch code, but they had the stretch code. And then they repealed it back to the basic code because there was no more money that they could get from the state, and they found it very burdensome. So if you did not watch the 8 minutes, there were 2 sections with a little less than 4 minutes each. I would actually even encourage you to do that tonight while people are here, if you haven't had a chance, because it was very enlightening as to why they decided to repeal the stretch code. It doesn't just apply to new houses. I heard 5 new houses. It doesn't just apply to new houses. I spent a lot of time today. In December of 2022, National Grid reached out to Essex, probably to Hamilton as well, and said that they had a plan for rolling blackouts and brownouts. They needed to have a plan because they were concerned about the winter. And we actually, by 2035, we're not supposed to be able to get new gas cars. It's only going to be electric. So there is a pressure on the grid. And again, if people want to do it, great. But the pressure on the grid and all these new mandates, I don't think are meshing. And I happened to find myself at Mystic Power Plant in 2024, May of 2024, when they were closing. They were the most effective and the most efficient and largest power plant on the eastern seaboard, is what I was told by the people there. And they told me, I asked them about all these mandates coming out of the state and why would we ever be shutting down an electric power plant at this point when we're trying to move forward. And they just looked at me with the same questions that I had. They were like, we don't understand it either. So a couple things. So the underlying metrics of the code can change. In fact, that has changed with the stretch code that we are currently under. So it's as if you have given the bank authorization to take money out of your account. And when you vote on it, you said you can take money out of my account and you're going to take it out once a year for $100. But we are not just authorizing that. We are authorizing them to take out money whenever they want for however much they want, because we do not control the underlying metrics. That is very concerning to me because they can keep ratcheting up what the expectations are. I also think it's discriminatory in the fact that I think for some people may want to put an addition on their house to have an elderly parent live with them, and it would be a cost burden. Not everybody has that money up front. They may not have a mortgage. And then also there was in April of 2023, there was a regional meeting, and one of the things on there was talking about how to help businesses with the potential instability of electricity. That was a regional meeting, and Joe, I think, was part of that. I think I saw your name on that email as well. So there's real concerns. It's not just making it up. I'm not just making up that there's concerns about the grid, and I'm very concerned about us moving forward with this as is. I think we need more information. We shouldn't be educating after it's on the warrant. It should be educating before it's on the warrant, because especially with other things on the warrant, we want to make sure that when people vote, they know what they're voting for. And I spent hours today, and I just hit the surface. And I had been aware of this last year. So thank you for your time.
Appreciate it. Anything online?
Nobody online.
Anything, anybody else in the room? Again, we'll, when we get to the warrant articles, this is on there as well for further discussion for the board. Okay, let's go to our next topic. It's a public hearing for a utility pole on Blackbrook Road. As per our responsibilities, anytime a pole goes up, we have a public hearing. We allow abutters to comment. I know we have a representative from National Grid here. If we have any questions, it seems very straightforward to me. We have some pictures here identifying where the pole would go and a brief write-up that was in your packet. Thank you for joining us. Is there anything you'd like to say up front, or?
Hello, my name is John Jenkins. I'm representing National Grid. I'm a design engineer in the Beverly office. Currently, the two poles, 2196 and pole 2197 on Blackbrook Road, have a 230-foot span between them. And for our standard, we keep it to 150 now. So adding this new pole in the middle, approximately 130 feet from pole 2197, will just decrease the tension on the wires out there and make it safer.
That makes sense. So this is a standard with National Grid. Are there other poles that we are aware of in the town of Hamilton that we might want to go back and release tension on as well?
I
I know that's not for this public. I'm just curious if there's like a roadmap of this that we may have another 10, 15, or none.
Yeah, we have our maps with everything, but the best way is just to catch it on the field and notice it.
So no additional wires going up, it's just to kind of relieve some tension.
Just, yeah, this pole is gonna be going in the middle of the already existing infrastructure, and it will,
Okay.
we're replacing some of the wire on one side, just,
Okay, and there've been notices to the abutters?
Yep.
And everyone know,
Two
no,
abutters, two abutters,
no
we have the abutters
issues?
list. Well, we have one of the abutters is online,
Okay,
so. I assume that's what Mr. Alsop is here for.
I'm here for numerous things tonight.
yeah, any comments on the poll,
Of course.
for discussion?
Yes, I've noticed that there was other markers that are sort of mysteriously placed, white with a red top, and they seem to be dividing other areas between long stretches. And so I'm wondering if you actually have a comprehensive plan for pole replacement. And there was one pole that was fairly destroyed by a tree that apparently is not being replaced in this particular process, which should be replaced. So I'm wondering where you might stand on the other poles.
For the other poles, I'm not too sure about. I can check back and see if there's more designs coming, or because I just went out today and marked for this one specifically, because this is its own job. I can also come out and check if do you know what is the closest address to that pole that was damaged?
Mine, 11 Black Road.
Okay, so I didn't go that far down the street today, but I can come out and check. And
You might notice there are a couple other areas that have similar spans.
yep, on that street,
And
you mean?
I think I noticed, markers being placed. I was just wondering if there's any planning for that.
I mean, there could be. I'm not aware of it yet, but I just saw this one coming up and did my research on this one.
Thank you.
And there'll be no outages
No
for this.
objection, by the way. No objection.
Okay, any other comments from the room, from butters potentially online, or from the board? Okay, with none, I guess I'll entertain a motion to approve the addition of a pole on Blackbrook Road as identified in this diagram.
Between poll numbers 2196 and 2197. I have that right?
Yep.
Yep.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, we have two motions. We'll do a roll call vote if there's no further discussion. Starting with you, Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Galuza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. We're good.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Josh. Good to see you. Okay, next on our agenda, we have a department head report on water rate adjustments. With the Director of Public Works, is Tim Olson online?
He is.
Okay, hey, Tim.
What's going on now?
How's it going?
Hey,
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Tim Olson, DPW Director. Came a couple weeks ago, you as well, bringing up the, preliminary discussions to look at adjustments of the water rates to cover upcoming expenses and potential capital requests. Looking at the longer 5-year plan, there are some substantial projects that we should be looking into, and I'm just trying to plan accordingly with the rates. As it is, it's an enterprise account, as we all know, covered by, all the expenses are covered by rates in the infrastructure charges. So I have taken the time to look into a couple of those items that you had asked me to do a couple weeks ago. More importantly, I was asked to look at
Recording in progress.
the average of a two-person household. I was able to generate a list of just under 100 properties in town, variety of ages, variety of locations, So I think it's a good sample of, of a two-person household in Hamilton. 100 samples, averaging them out over a year period, was just over about 10,000 gallons for average for a quarter. So I believe what you had asked me to do was look at the impact of potentially raising that low tier rate up from 5,000 gallons to the 10,000 gallon mark. So I did that, and I did calculate what an average bill would look like, and by adjusting it from 5,000 to 10,000, it seemed like it was a savings per quarter of about $12 and about $50 for the year. So it really doesn't change much adding, or adjusting that low tier. I did use 14,000 gallons, which I believe is a fairly good estimate for a household in Hamilton, what I've seen on record. But I just went through that exercise as requested. I also pulled a listing, as I was also asked to do, I pulled a listing of our past adjustments. And we did an adjustment back in 2015, did a new adjustment or another adjustment in 2020. That was about a 10% increase across the board for each of the 5 tiers, with a 33% increase to the infrastructure fee. It went from $60 to $80 in 2020. From 2020, we kept rates until about 2023 when we did a new rate adjustment. In that rate adjustment, 3 years later, in 2023, I was asked to increase rates down the line with the 5 tiers, starting at 30%, each tier raising up by 5%. So it was 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. And we increased the infrastructure fees about 38% from $80 to $110. That is per quarter. And again, that was to cover our not only our operating expenses, but I was asked to cover the debt service with our infrastructure fee alone. I think that's a good strategy. I think we are still in line and should look at that as a good strategy to continue with. But there is a lot here. There is a lot to absorb, digest. But I think what we're looking at is, like I said earlier, we're looking at increases in our operating, as well as some potential larger capital projects that we should look to plan for in the future. How we do that, that is kind of why I'm here, and we're looking at this for the now as well as for the future. Does it make sense to increase rates to a point that we are able to cover some of those larger expenses with retained earnings, and maybe limit the amount of the need for bonding? But these are large projects that are becoming vital and important for Hamilton, regardless of the future of regionalization or not. These projects are still having to happen because of our current infrastructure.
Is it all right if I add a little,
Yeah.
add a little to that, Tim? So, I mean, some of your history with your Water Enterprise Fund is that the town meetings in the early 2010s authorized borrowing of up to $10 million to be funded by the Enterprise Fund. Over several years, the $10 million was eventually borrowed. Your principal left to pay back on that is about $8.5 million. That's about really $8.5 to $10 million, about the limit of what you want to put against borrowing on the enterprise system that size. So a couple of years ago, as Tim had mentioned and the FinCom had endorsed, we started adjusted the water rates to try to build up the retained earnings so that some of the smaller projects could be done for cash, cost us less, we wouldn't have to borrow money and pay the cost of borrowing money, and we could get some of that stuff done. But currently, if you look at the 5-year capital plan right now, there's about an estimated $11.5 million worth of water projects that need to get done over the next 5 to 8 years. You can't raise enough money by increasing the rates to realistically pay all that through retained earnings, but neither can you pay it all off by adding more to the debt. So I think Tim brings forward a good idea of making a modest adjustment to the rates to be able to build up the retained earnings. After we make votes at this year's town meeting, Wendy, correct me if I say this wrong, after we make votes at this year's town meeting and maintain 20% of operating as retained earnings, that's part of our financial policies, we would have about $1.2 million in retained earnings. A water project is going to cost between $2 and $3 million. So at the rate we're currently charging, at the current usage, it would take us probably another 2 years to raise enough money in retained earnings to be able to do one project. That's not going to really help us in the long run. So the idea would be, again, I'm modest. Tim's giving you spreadsheets with a couple different options. You can look at those and ask him to come up with some others. If I share this sheet with you real quick, and the folks at home, you know, on the colored boxes to the right illustrates 4 different options to Tim. Just study, just to put numbers on and have you look at. And some of the things, it's impossible to read these at home, I know that. But, you know, if you look at, I'm trying to slide this part over here. Tim's in my way too, let's see it. But they have, if you could look at those options, I can try and make this thing readable. You could say that, you know, one of the plans calls to increase the infrastructure fee and increase the rates. One plan calls to not increase the infrastructure fee and increase the rates more or less. There's different options. So you could ask Tim to study other options that you think might be, you know, between what these options are here, but it gives you some kind of parameters if you look at the spreadsheets. You should have the spreadsheets already. I can't figure out how to get to this thing.
Yeah, I remember we went over there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
Would the infrastructure fee, is that a flat fee that all
Yeah.
users pay?
Yeah, that was added to the bills probably 5 or 6 years ago now.
Okay.
It's a
and
flat fee, not a percent of
It's a
your.
flat fee. Every ratepayer pays the same
Quarterly,
infrastructure
yeah.
fee per quarter.
Yeah.
And, you know,
So that's
that was done
$110
as part
right
of,
now?
that was a big part of the way to try to raise the retained earnings initiative, because the idea was being
Yeah.
infrastructure benefits every user in the system, not doesn't matter how much you use it, every user needs their infrastructure to be improved, so.
And we have a little over $1 million in retained earnings in that infrastructure
In the enterprise fund right now, yeah.
Enterprise fund, okay. And what, I know we went through the last week on, there was a big list of funds, but
Yeah.
what are we
So the retained.
earning on that?
Yeah, the enterprise fund is different, it doesn't operate. Wendy, are we allowed to invest I'm not sure if we're allowed to invest the residual in the enterprise fund. It's not, it doesn't work the same as other funds.
Okay.
Correct. Not allowed.
It's essentially the general fund for the water department.
Okay. All
So
right.
that sits in a basic savings account
Yeah,
collecting
yeah, very
minimum.
little we can do with it.
There's no way to put that into CDs or anything even?
No.
And I think as Joe mentioned earlier, the problem that we were having is we're forecasting out a certain amount of revenue to not only cover the current expenses and operating, but also planning for capital.
Yeah.
I think with, current market, current rates, everything, it's just not able to keep up with it. So we can, it could be 2 years, we could look at planning for 2 years, but then with the world or whatever happens, we're not able to generate the money that we're thinking of, or the price of phase 5 or phase 6 or water operation or water infrastructure project may just, we're adding, but we're not gaining, if that makes any sense. It's just, a lot of this work is very expensive, but it unfortunately needs to continue and needs to get done just because of our aging infrastructure.
All right, so,
One of those that I think we should be looking at yearly, and I know we continue to say that, and it's, but I think that's very important these days just because of the, validity in the market.
We've been doing it about every other year at this point, and it's been maybe 2 years now since the last time we made an adjustment. Tim, is that right?
It was 2023.
3, yeah.
So it's longer. So it's kind of looking like it might be time to make a look ahead
Okay.
and make an adjustment. As I said, these, if the board could take a look at the different options that were provided, make suggestions on things that you'd like to see changed up a little different, Tim can bring that back, and then we'd like to be able to have lots of runway to be able to make sure the public knows what's coming. we don't want this to affect anybody until what time, Tim, the August bill? But we want to have time between now and then that happens to be able to, educate and inform the community about what's going on and why. So we're hoping that maybe either at the next meeting in March or the first meeting in April, you'll be able to consider what you want to do with the water rates and make a vote so that we have time to roll it
So
out.
were these, I see these grids, I don't have it in front of me tonight, but I remember you walking us through them, Tim. Has anything changed since that last meeting? Did you adjust any of the gallons that we started talking about, or this is the same grid because it was a minimal impact?
Yeah, it's the same that I had before. I mean, I can do a variety of different scenarios. It really all bottoms down to how much we want to, try to generate, in not only covering the operating expenses, but also building and planning for the future.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to just touch on, because what I heard you say, Joe, is, we've got about $8.5 million that we're still paying from prior projects, right? And I think you mentioned an $11.5 million of future over the next 5 years. Does that get us to gaining, like you said, and where we want to be? Is that the total nut, if you will, 20-ish million over the last 5 and future 5? Or is this an ongoing, kind of phase of another 10 million every 5 years?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think a little bit of both there, because one of the projects is replacing the water tank up on Brownsville. That is a tank that I think there's 4 cells up there. The first cell is 1935. I think the last of the 4 was 1957. So it's an underground water tank that is, it's at the end of its life, and it's a very vital piece of our infrastructure. And we don't have redundancy. We don't have a backup plan. That is something that I believe, we commit to it. That's something that would be there for the next, 50, 75, 100 years, whatever it is. That's kind of a one and done, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And I think the other projects that I'm looking at is the infrastructure upgrades. That is, unfortunately, that is a piece of something that needs to continue to happen. And we're not alone. We have these numerous conversations at my conferences, at my seminars, about how costly the infrastructure is. We are fortunate we don't have sewer in town. That is really driving a lot of communities' costs skyrocketing. We have water. I think if we plan correctly, I think we can really make some really big strides with upgrading our water system here. The $10 million, for an example, the $10 million that Joe referred to earlier, that brought us through 4 phases of water system improvements, as well as a large upgrade at our water plant. So that was, roughly 60,000 feet of new water pipe as part of those 4 phases. And like I said, a substantial upgrade. So that was from 2012 to 2018, I believe, is when that money was utilized. Things have changed. The market has changed since that point, unfortunately. But we can do some substantial work with given the funding in place. There's work to be done, but like I said, I think some projects are a one and done, and other projects are a continuation and building infrastructure that would be well needed and well used, for the long term, short term, as well as long term growth.
Okay, Tom?
Yeah, just a couple questions and comments. Joe, I think you sort of answered part of my question. I think I heard you say you want to, with the next meeting or two, as far as timeline, getting this moving along. And just remind me, this is just to go to the select board and doesn't go to town meeting, or does go to town meeting?
No, it's the vote of the select board. The select board in the town of Hamilton is the water commissioners. So you set the rates.
Got it. Are we planning any sort of broader picture communication around this? I mean, we're town meeting in April. We're looking at a debt exclusion and an override, big cost to the taxpayers. Another cost of increasing the water cost here. I think there needs to be sort of a big picture of why we're doing all of this. I support what you're saying. I think there's a need to, support our infrastructure and water, and I understand what you're put together as far as the proposals, and I think there's some reasonable proposals there. I just think we need some messaging and a bigger picture of how this all fits together, because we're raising water costs, and then we're asking for these different votes. I can see where folks are gonna get pretty frustrated, so I think we need to, really communicate this well.
So I think in 2019, Tim, we did a big water meeting. We had it out at the Post, and we had public in, and we answered questions from folks on the Capcom, folks on the FinCom, others. We had probably 50 people in the room. We went through the water department study that had been done. We could do another project like that. We want to be able to talk about it in terms of both what is coming in terms of any rate increases that the board approves and what is needed going forward and why. And we could probably by then, if we focus on maybe May or June, we should be able to provide some update too on what's working with the North Shore Water Resiliency Task Force and what is kind of more back burner stuff with them. So I think May and June will be a good time to have a big meeting on that, and we can ask HWCAM to tape it for us and kind of keep it on a loop so people can catch it.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. I'd love to participate in that.
You don't think we want to do a report at this town meeting too soon to kind of highlight what's coming? Or we're talking a lot about costs, like Tom said, that's coming through the schools, through our own town.
We'll do whatever the board wants us to do.
No, I'm just throwing it out there.
I do think update the town meeting on this year.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's big. I kind of, and I don't know if it's written. I just want to identify the strategy a little bit better and understand. So we know we need about 11 million. You want to get build up retained earnings to help pay for that through rates. But there's going to be a need to go for borrowing as well. Like, do you kind of have that strategy of the mix and timing and prioritization of projects that say, rates will cover X, Y, Z, and then we go to borrowing?
I think, Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, the original 10 million in borrowing for the enterprise fund, I think we've got principal left of about 8.5 million. So over just the course of a few years, we've paid down about $1.5 million. I'd like to see that come down a little bit more before we, attempted to do anything else through borrowing on the enterprise fund right now. But like I said, it's $11.5 million over several years. If we could build up the retained earnings to do another water project or two over the next 5 to 6 years from the retained earnings, that would maybe, hopefully, potentially allow us to borrow to do the water tank, because that's going to be a $3.5 to $4 million project. That probably is the size of project you want to borrow for.
And how many years are left on the 8.5? Do we know?
Some of it rolls off in 29, and some of it doesn't come off till 35.
So you got to roll forward to that. Okay.
The majority is 35, correct.
Okay. Well, I think we need a blend of a rate. I think if the board can go through the recommendations, we can come up with any suggestions. The last question I would have too, comparatively, how do we look against other communities and with our current rates, and then where would that change us potentially, if we kind of went with any of your recommendations, from what range to what, from a competitiveness or?
Tim, have you had a chance to get the comps?
Yeah, I kind of looked at it, and it's a little challenging because sometimes some communities budget a certain way, similar to what we're talking about. So rates, what I can relate to was when I was in Rockport. We have sewer up there, but I broke down my water bill in Rockport. I used about 12,000, just under 13,000 gallons in 2024. So a couple years ago, and my water bill was $199. So that is right where we are today. So 2 years ago, year and a half ago, Rockport's rates were where we're kind of going, and where we're at. So I feel like we're very competitive. Like I said, it's very challenging comparing rates because they handle it differently. The volumes, they either go by cubic feet per second or gallons. And you don't know how some are doing the infrastructure fees, some are doing all just rates. It's kind of hard to compare. But looking at just the actual usage itself, I feel like we're very competitive. And have room to increase if we need to. I just wanted to point out, if we don't increase, Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, if we don't increase for next year, we will be in the deficit based on our operating and capital budgets.
So do we know the increase required just to not go in deficit versus increase in retained earnings?
I can figure that out. You know, we're very close next year, but we are in the deficit, so it would be a very, very minimal increase
Okay.
to zero out. But right now, that's what it looks like. Obviously, I'm using projections based on quarterly commitments, but based on our operating and capital, we are flirting with a small deficit.
Got it. Ben?
How big are the tanks up on Browns Hill?
There's 4 of them. They range in size, but it's about total is about 850,000 gallons.
And
they're all below grade. They're all underground.
And are they piped together, or are they,
Yes.
so that you can't isolate any one cell? If one,
We can isolate. I mean, I'm not sure how the infrastructure. There are overflow pipes that connect the 4 together. They all operate at the same elevation.
okay,
There's one pipe in and one pipe out. There's not a, you know, it's an in and an out.
Okay.
There's no in and out. It's the same pipe. So it operates usually, we run off the tank when the plant is offline or off for the night.
I'll ask the question a little differently. If one tank fails, if one of the cells fails, do we lose the other 3 as well?
Yeah, they all run off the same elevation.
So the money that we're talking about though, Tim, that's redundancy and quality, nothing to do with volume, right?
It would be a little larger tank, but it would be new, and obviously there's that stability and confidence in the tank. And it's also, it would be partially below and above ground to gain some pressure, but also some volume for fire flow protection.
Got it.
I actually have the late Dave Thompson put together a plan several years ago for $30,000 study up at the top of the seminary. I have engaged an engineer to look at that area to conceptually design a tank. So I will have more information for you in the future. But we do have some funding that's set aside for that, looking at size, looking at location, looking at conceptual cost estimates. So there's more coming on that, and that's why I have it on the plan, on the capital plan, but also as kind of like just an earmark at this point, to tighten up that number as we get through.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
Yeah.
Rosie, go ahead.
Couple of comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can, Rosie.
Oh, okay, sorry.
No
Okay,
worries.
so the first comment that I have, I think it would be a very prudent thing to do to put an info sheet about potential water rate raises. I think that's the place to start the conversation. I do like the idea of prospectively growing the retained earnings so that there's less need to borrow. I think people can understand the importance of saving ahead of time. I think that's a very financially prudent way to do it. I think as well as the info sheet that just talks about sort of generally why, generally that we're going to need to raise rates. I think there should be some discussion about what the planned uses are. I think the fact that we need our water tank replaced, I think some information, how old is it, what kind of repairs have been done. I think people would understand that and be more willing to not be so upset about rate raises if they can understand the concrete use that we would have for it.
Rosie, you want that for the next meeting, or are you talking about for like the distributed annual town meeting, or both?
Well, I think about the info sheet going into the water bill. I think that's a very important topic, and as many specifics as Tim would be able to put into it. I mean, it piques my interest when I hear specifically there's an expensive project coming along. I know that Tim has talked to us about the water tank, but I think more specifics. How old is it? What kind of repairs? And I think people can relate to the necessity of that more easily than just sort of a nebulous, oh, well, you know, infrastructure, well, what does that mean, right? So those are thoughts that I had, because I know that Tim really works to keep the rates as low as possible. And I think the scenarios that he has suggested to us are varying, and I think that one or two can certainly work. So I have a lot of faith in Tim, and I think he is very diligent and very careful about water rates. So I think the more people know, the better.
Thanks for the suggestion, we'll do that, we'll get on that.
Yeah, and it's likely probably a future board meeting discussion prior to anything like that going out. I mean, I don't think we've sat and talked about the 11.5 million and the timing and all the good questions, you know?
Yep.
And again, that doesn't even address the volume. I'd love to talk about that, like what else might we incur over time, you know, relative to addressing our water needs, not just the quality and the redundancy we're talking about. Yeah, you get a little volume, but I think water is going to be one of our biggest line items going forward. So I think it's probably worth a holistic discussion on all those projects and how we're going to source it, meaning funding-wise, and we've got a strategy to increase retained earnings. To Rosie's point, I think people will understand that, you know, and then what's our strategy? We're going to let our debt get down to 6-7 million, and then we're going to replenish, you know, take on other phases of projects that total this, and this is what you get for it, and then our debt will likely go back up to the 10 million or so, probably, if that's kind of your running debt number.
And I think another point to discuss is the fact that for so many decades we did absolutely nothing to upgrade our water system. I mean, the water system and the infrastructure, and there was a lot of very good conversation about that. And although the $10 million price tag was astronomical, I think when you talk about specifics, people are and they can see the value as it relates to them as taxpayers. I think it's a much more positive conversation.
Tim, you mentioned some studies and such. Do we need any larger scale study to look at this holistically? Or do we have what we need to kind of assess and plan for projects and funding?
I mean, I'll let kind of Wendy and Joe come in on this if they want to, but I know we have talked about these things in my conferences. There are groups out there that will look at from like a third-party approach, outside town looking in, trying to create like a water rate study, looking at our capital, looking at our planned future expenses, looking at our operating expenses. There are groups out there, there are companies that do that type of work. I tend to, you know, I would probably side on trying to get a professional in here, and the only reason why I'm saying is because we're dealing with not only a couple, you know, $100,000, we're dealing with multi-million dollars. I think it's something that I know I don't have, I'll be honest with you, I don't have the expertise on a water rate study. I can put rates together to cover expenses, but projecting costs and market and things like that on some of these larger projects are very important to do that, and do so. There's strategy, there's also the, you know, accuracy, and I think at least having somebody that has that knowledge and that experience, it might not be a bad idea for, you know, for a fraction of the cost.
So, Bill, were you asking specifically about whether we have a good handle on our system as it is and what its needs are for the future as well?
Yes.
So the 2019 study that we had Dewberry do provided that and laid out a map for the next, 10-plus years for what the town should be looking to try to, again, accomplish. So all the things that are on the 5-year capital plan came out of the Dewberry study in 2019.
So you feel that plan is your
I mean,
roadmap that you're working on right
it's-
now,
it's the-
that will
it's the
define the
roadmap-
10 and 11 and a half, or whatever?
Yeah, it's the roadmap we're working on right now. We do need to kind of revisit some of the numbers, as Tim said, after
COVID.
yeah, after COVID, rates went up across the board. So we have to look at some of the estimates that were put together, reassess those, see if we need to make adjustments. I do think that Tim's right on the water rate stuff. It might be worth it at some point to bring in an outsider to kind of study our water rates and give us some idea. I don't know that we have to do that before we make this change, but we could certainly endeavor to do it before we make a future change.
Okay, so thanks for clarifying that, because I was thinking more of the.
Okay, that's what I.
But the rate study, I'll leave that up to you guys. I'm sure that wouldn't be as much, but as long as you're following the Dewberry plan and you think that's current, and we know where we're going, we know what good looks like, and we're not just throwing money at it right now. Okay? So I think we've got some homework to go through the rates and give you some guidance. I do think there's a desire to increase rates at the right amount, stay competitive. We don't want to just pass along costs. There's a lot going at residents already for spend right now, but we need to look at this and kind of just clearly communicate the projects that lie ahead and our strategy between debt and kind of rates and how we're going to, complete these projects over the next 5 years. So I think if the board can come back after looking at that and give a little more guidance to Tim and Joe, that would be helpful. We can hone in on the rate plan. Do we need anything as a board else to think about or look at? I want to make a decision in our next meeting.
We probably have it, Tim, but if you can send us that Excel sheet again, just so it's easier to read than in the packets, it'd be great.
Okay, that work?
Yeah, fine.
All right. Good discussion. Thank you, Tim.
You want to take
And I
a
have
comment
to
on
say one
this?
more thing, because I'm jumping on.
We're not
Just,
voting, I don't know.
I know
Should we?
down further in
You
the
should.
agenda.
Public comment for this.
Jay Butler was a good friend of mine. I did had a lot of meetings with him, a lot of help and assistance with the town hall, and I'm 100% behind that. So just
Okay.
want to let you guys know my feeling, because I have to leave, I can't stay on, but I know that's going to be coming up in the meeting. So.
Okay, Tim, appreciate that feedback. I understand all that, Jay has done for this town as well as the town hall project. So thank you for sharing your thoughts there.
Yes. Thank you.
You want to take public comment on this item?
Yeah, we're not voting, but we can take some public comment on water rates.
Hi. Just briefly.
Sure.
Jack Whittier, 35 Waldenfield Road. When you're looking at a major capital expenditure like this, and your rates are a segment of it, but there's this water energy nexus thing, and you're going to get really, once you start talking about water, you're talking about pumping, and a lot of electricity gets into the pumping thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would tie if you're going to do a study, I would make sure you tie the water rate study to an electricity study. See what you can do with time of use rates, variable speed drives, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
I would not just look at rates, because there's a lot of options there that can bring down operating costs. I mean, what you're getting to is this levelized cost thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're going to get CapEx, you're going to get OpEx, and you're going to try to put that together. I take a close look at that.
I think that plays well, just understanding the Browns Hill, water tanks being elevated in terms of when we pump to fill those.
Yeah.
And looking at that, if there's options there, Tim, if that means upgrades to our pumping and control strategy, so that we can, maybe pump at night when electricity is cheaper. Maybe we're already doing some of that, but maybe there's some additional efficiency there.
And there's a fun little. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Well, there's a fun little thing you can do.
We're actually right in the busy, I don't know if Vicky's still there, I think I saw her earlier. But she helped me put together a proposal grant through National Grid for our water treatment plant. Looking at, we do have VFDs on all our drives. There are a couple smaller pumps qualified for some VFD credits through the GAP and energy efficiency credits and grants. We're also looking at solar on our roof. That's something else that they are evaluating as well. So we are going through those efforts. The tank is another
water roof?
whole other element that we don't currently have, but that's something we can look at in the future for how if there's ways to increase efficiencies, energy and electrical costs and things like that. But at our plant, we actually are going through a study right now. And Vicki has all that information for you.
Tim, can I just ask, what's a VFD?
Variable frequency drive, it just controls the pumperage, pumping, rotation, how hard the motor's working, how hard the pump's working. So it's an easy kind of an increase, gradual decrease instead of a hard on-off that drives a lot of electricity. So it controls the speed of the motor.
Okay, thank you.
So it sounds like you're looking at everything relative to operating expenses, even how to run the pumps and when, and hard stops or not, so it sounds like, yeah, appreciate that.
And we're also looking at several grants as well, so that's another, we didn't get into it, but that's something else we are looking at as well, to try to reduce some of these costs and funding, alternate funding sources.
Excellent. Any other comments anywhere across the room? All right, let's keep moving. Good discussion. Yeah, if you can send that sheet around again, Tim, that'd be helpful, or Joe,
Yeah.
and we'll put it on the next agenda.
Can I ask that you take the next two? Thanks, Tim.
Out of order?
We'll take the next two kind of together. So it's a notification of the high school roof project. You just want to acknowledge that you received the notification from the schools, and then it's going to lead into the next two items anyway. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's-
which I wanted to talk about even on the warrant order. It seemed like they were not together on the warrant article ordering, which maybe they should, just like we're putting them together now.
On the warrant?
Yeah, when the discussions about the override versus operating budgets, isn't the debt override way down in the order? Or did I have that wrong?
The debt exclusion is way down, but the operating override, the 2.5 override is right after the initial budget article. So we kept the budget articles together, and then the debt is, the debt.
And you don't,
exclusion
like,
is
we're
different.
ordering them
And
together
you
right
can-
now,
you
you know what I'm
can-
saying? That's all I'm just saying. It's a
Well,
logical
So the-
flow,
you're-
in my
you-
opinion.
You've got them together because you're going to be looking at the ballot question language. So both ballot questions have
For
to
the
be approved
ballot,
tonight.
not at that town meeting.
Right.
Okay.
So they'll be the only ballot questions on the ballot, so.
Okay, so we did receive notification.
Tom McKinney is here, yeah.
Tom McKinney's here, legal counsel for the town. $10.3 million roof system project for the schools, which is, I guess, subject to being reduced by MSBA grants, correct? Which could total up to 45%, which would bring that cost down. Much needed project from deferred maintenance. It will extend the life of the building and so forth. We've talked a little bit about monies we can save with solar on top today, but I think this is just a discussion in recognition that we received the notification for the school. It will be on the ballot, and if there's any further discussion on this, we can have that right now. Did I miss anything?
No, the board will need to take a vote, though, on the specific ballot questions to add them to the warrant, which,
And those are in the packet.
that's in the package, correct?
These?
Yes. Yes, so if you could,
You want to read these?
Yeah, read
Both, the second one, or the first one, or both?
you could take them one at a time or together as you see fit, sir.
Okay, so why don't we take the second one first, I guess, because that's the roof replacement system. So ballot question 2 would read, shall the town of Hamilton be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2.5, so-called, the amounts required to pay the town's allocable share of the bond issued by the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District for the purpose of paying costs of the roof system replacement at the Hamilton-Wenham Regional High School located at 775 Bay Road, Hamilton, Mass., including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. So we would not have a dollar amount on there, or?
That's correct. For the debt exclusion question, there is no dollar amount that's included, and it's the same as we've had on several other projects in the past. With respect to the override, which would be the first question on the ballot, which is next on the agenda,
Okay.
there is an actual dollar amount included.
Okay, so it's consistent with prior language on?
Yeah, it's actually the statutory form.
Statutory,
You have
okay.
to use the statutory form, correct.
The question was already reviewed by bond council and approved, so.
And I would note that the debt exclusion question is a 2/3 vote of the select board to put it on the warrant.
2/3 vote to put it on the warrant?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
By, again, all statutory.
Yep. Okay, any discussion on, from the board on the language?
But during the presentation, there will be some discussion, obviously, as to costs and what roughly the MSBA grant will defer or pay for, I'm sorry, is the wrong term.
So will Eric, Superintendent Tracy do that? Is the FinCom planning on talking about anything? Both? Okay, great. Yeah, I think Rosie, that definitely they would roll through the that. Have we looked at potential, once, what will the average taxpayer pay in principal and interest on potential debt? Have we looked at that?
Hamilton is probably $30. I think the total is 45. It would be 10 million plus 4.5 gets you to 5.6. That gets split in 2, and you get 2/3 of that.
Got it.
We'll firm up a $30. I think that's probably what it will be in that neighborhood.
And do we know the timing of the MSBA grant and the fact, whether or not we're accepted, or we already passed that? Is the school applied? I'm looking at you, sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's all been approved,
think it's
right?
all been
From what I
This,
understand.
for the roof, it already was accepted into the program, and there's not a, because they're all applied based on needs of
Yeah.
communities, right? So I just want to make sure they've got a green light or not.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the school committee voted on
Yep.
it as well.
But the letter to us was for the full amount,
Yeah, it has to be.
Yep.
Tom's laid it out.
statutory.
Right, yeah, it's
Exactly
just,
how we did
yeah.
it with the school vote.
Okay.
It has to be the full value.
Okay, seems clean to me. Anybody else? Ben?
Vicky, I had a question just because I know Vicky sometimes weighs in on these issues, kind of, especially when it crosses over the town. But have we had any oversight in terms of like the quality of the roof, or what they're considering in terms of insulation levels or solar readiness, things like that? Sorry.
Good question.
How are you? Good to see you. Hi, Vicki Missoni, Energy Manager. The design process so far has been very prescriptive by MSBA. So MSBA assigns a designer. It's Gale Associates, I believe, has taken the lead. And they have a mechanical sub-consultant who's doing all the mechanical design. So I haven't had a lot of insight into the into the design. I've seen the preliminary design report. What's interesting is they're also going to be replacing some mechanical equipment up there that's at the end of life. So all that's built into this project, which I found interesting as far as, looking for grants for mechanical equipment. That's kind of what I do all the time. So I've been in touch with Curtis and Eric about that as it proceeds, but they're only at 60% design. So,
At that point, it's pretty much baked, like the 60% threshold, so, I mean, it's a little, I'll just say this out loud, it's a little concerning, that we're, being asked to, I know we're getting the grant money and that's a prescriptive process from the MSBA, so we get 45%, that's great. However, we're gonna live with the energy bills for the next 20 years, when it comes to the equipment, and the next 50 years when it comes to the roof, at least. So I'm kind of surprised that we're not more integrated in the process as towns when it comes back to the towns to pay for it. So, and also with the knowledge that we have signed up to be in kind of this Green Communities program. We do have our net zero goals that have already passed through the town. So, and our schools are a big part of that. So I'm kind of,
So
I don't know.
at 60%, you're saying we don't have impact, or is there an ask here to make sure that we're in line with, what we want to do to make sure,
Well,
we
sort of
have
like with-
energy savings on insulation you mentioned, solar, all of that? Is it pre-work being done on that roof to accommodate?
Right. Well,
Do we don't have answers to that, I hear.
Right.
Yes, I thought I read in the design that the new roof will be, part of the installation process is to be solar ready. So that's part of the project.
I thought I heard that
So-
too, but I haven't seen a design.
I can clarify, just MSBA, because it's not if it was a brand new school, the 100% of the roof would have to be solar ready. They did do a preliminary structural analysis on the existing roof, and they found that 40% or something like that right now can safely be assumed as solar ready. So they're saying that requirement is met.
So 40% of the roof.
Of what they're replacing.
Structurally,
Just,
right.
yeah, they're only replacing the high school, so the middle school is a different story, right?
So, but how is that ready? I mean, there won't be anything up there to allow us to hook in.
I think just structurally, it has to be structurally solar ready, meaning it can bear the load.
Being pre-wired, right, in a sense.
I don't,
Whatever, I mean,
yeah.
maybe this is a term, but just sort of preparing for at some point in the future. I
Yeah.
believe that's what I understand it to mean.
I'm less concerned about the solar readiness, honestly, and more concerned about the installation levels that they're achieving. You know, that's the big thing that it's going to last. It'll outlive me. You know,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
Can we ask Eric and Curtis to confirm that for us and have that as part of the presentation at town meeting, that what the levels of insulation and solar readiness are?
And I'd like to see
Yeah,
how
before.
and specifically around the installation levels, the equipment that they're specifying. You know, that's news to me as of today, that there's mechanical equipment going in as part of this project, sort of like with the boilers, you know, that were at the end of their life, dying and then just replacing in kind because it's an emergency. How do these things map back to the commitments that the two towns have made? You know, it seems like a big gap in my knowledge right now. So I'm not.
It's a big gap in them working to help that.
I'm looking at you, Jim, but it's not your
Yeah,
job, right? You know, I'm kind of.
But maybe the ask, whether it's Vicky
Yeah.
or you, is to like, we a lot of questions risen tonight just about insulation, solar readiness, mechanical equipment being replaced.
Yeah, because it was kind of a miss with the boilers, right? It's like if they had done this all together, you know, we could have gotten, 40 to 50% of all the HVAC upgrades if they'd gone geothermal or done the ESCO like we did with the town hall.
Yeah.
You know, so this just can't, it's sort of this thing where it's like, oh, there's money from MSBA, great. There's all this other money too, and these other opportunities that could help out with what we're paying for energy bills over the next, 30, 40, 50 years too. So, I feel like there's a gap, the knowledge gap on the school committee that needs to be closed because they're coming back to the townspeople to ask us to pay for it.
Yeah.
And and we have you as such a great resource. I would, really like to see them engaging more. Sorry, I got off my high horse on that.
Well, I just don't know if we haven't been paying attention or they haven't been proactive. I haven't been paying attention.
No.
I mean, to the design process.
Well, no, I
But you're in
haven't either.
lockstep.
Yeah,
with it.
the last one I saw was the 30% design. I've been trying to get the 60% design out of Curtis and Eric, because I guess that was just released a couple weeks ago. But I haven't seen that yet. I haven't been able to get it.
So that would be good to, if somebody could bring it to this board and just kind of drill into those insulation, all the stuff we just talked about, that'd be helpful. I don't know what we do with that at this stage, but
Probably not much,
Yeah.
but just it's kind of like, guys, like
Yeah.
the boiler was bad enough. It feels like it's happening again. So
Yeah.
let's get on a track where kind of.
yeah. Rosie, did you have something?
I just wanted to just comment that, does the middle school roof need to be replaced, and we're just putting that off? For some reason, I thought it was both the high school and the middle school, since it is, in reality, pretty much.
I mean, they all run on the same meter, right? Don't
The
they?
same meter, but there's just the high school roof.
Yeah.
Just the high school roof. So to get even into MSBA, the roof has to be a certain age, and the middle school
Right.
roof is not that age
Didn't trigger
yet.
Are there any leaks in the middle school roof that you're aware of?
Come on, Vicky.
That I don't know. I don't know about that.
You don't know?
No, we don't know.
I haven't heard about leaks in the middle school roof, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any, so there could be.
It is astounding, I mean, I think we're all sort of astounded at the cost to put in a new roof on a building. I mean, I've been communicating with Vinny, and he is likewise astounded. There's just no other word for it. Anyhow, but nonetheless, it does need to be done, I certainly agree with that.
So tonight's discussion around this debt exclusion is just accepting the language.
Accept the language so it can go on the ballot.
Okay.
That's with both ballot questions, and then when we get into warrant, all the questions and stuff around the warrant questions.
So it sounds like we have some open questions. We want to hear more about, prior to town meeting, and maybe that might kind of go into the report maybe Eric gives on it, for, what he's accomplishing. But
But we have a, we do have a deadline, so
Yep.
we need,
So-
we need the vote
I
tonight.
will take a motion, or if there's further discussion, I'll take that first, but otherwise, we'll take a motion to accept the language on Prop 2.5 debt exclusion for the high school roof replacement.
Can I just ask a quick question before we take a motion?
Yeah, sure.
The debt
Yeah,
from
we
school?
were allowed for
So I
that.
just
Thank
to
you,
make sure I
Vicky.
'Cause we're voting.
understand, just to make sure I understand it. So from the discussion, it seems like there isn't really a plan yet for what the roof is gonna look like and how it's gonna be implemented. Is that true?
There is a plan, there's a design plan that's out there. We just haven't gone through it and asked and probed in on some questions that were brought up tonight relative to equipment that we learned is being replaced and insulation levels and we understand the solar readiness, we know it's there, but not
Yeah.
how much, what capacity, or what structurally can be done on how much of the roof and how that impacts. Emmett said earlier 200K, but
Yeah.
if we don't have enough space up there for solar, is it really 200K or are we fractional? I don't know the
And the
answer.
school committee kind of owns this discussion. They
Yep.
own that plan because they're renting the buildings,
Yeah.
right? So it's sort of all in their court, but
Yep.
then they give us the bill, right?
That's right.
And it's over $10 million, is that right?
Yep.
For the roof.
Yep.
And yet the question doesn't have that number in it. So when do the residents find out? So if they're going to the ballot, they're just gonna see sort of an override for the operating expenses of one something, right? And then there's the second question that just says, I agree to some, I agree to paying the debt, but there's no number on it, like there's no information. It's just sort of a blank check or something? Like when does that money
No, I
get
think,
visible?
is there a report on the 10.3 specifically that'll follow it?
Well, there's-
Not
yeah,
on the
there's
ballot
also-
question.
There's two parts to it. There's a vote at town meeting whether
This is
to
the ballot.
authorize the debt or not, and that will have the specific dollar amount in it. And then the question that's on the ballot is whether to exclude that debt, do a debt exclusion, essentially to exclude that from your levy limit for
From the levy
purposes
limit.
of paying the debt service.
So it's only at the town meeting that the number is known and gets approved, that that's the amount? And then the second step is that we have to agree to have it not be part of 2.5. So if
Right,
the
but that
second,
second vote can't exceed the authorization from town meeting. So whatever the number is that they give
Right.
us at town meeting is the amount that we'd be able to raise the
Right.
debt exclusion.
Yes.
We wouldn't be able to go more than that.
but why is that number not on the question so that people can see that and have that be kind of part of their thinking, knowing that that's
The
going to be part of their-
statute has a specific form of ballot question, and the ballot question for a debt exclusion does not include the number in it. You're required to use the state statutory form.
So if it doesn't pass at the ballot, it doesn't pass?
Right.
That's correct, because the vote is contingent, the town meeting vote is contingent upon the approval of the debt exclusion vote.
Okay,
We'll ask the superintendent to lay all the costs out and to split
Yeah.
town by town,
Yeah.
tax impact.
At the town
FinCom will
meeting.
do exactly the same thing.
at town meeting, and then theoretically that has to get out, because a lot of people can't get to town meeting, as we know.
It'll be in the FinCom book recommendations 2 weeks prior to the meeting, so.
And people
if we-
understand that the ballot
if we
question
read the
relates to that.
recommendations, We will make sure it's in there.
Okay,
But right or wrong, I think your point, a lot more people go to the ballot box, right? And they're kind of like blank, they don't have no idea.
I mean, 10
the
million is a
dollar amount.
huge number for a roof, like
I'm
we're
a
all
little
saying.
surprised at that myself.
It's
but
like an enormous
if you
number, I just
guys-
feel like
Well, it's
that's,
5.6 after the,
And it was the same,
Yeah.
it's the
right.
same exact process
It's
we
what?
followed for the turf field. The turf field followed the
That's
same
correct.
exact
Yeah,
process.
exactly.
So
That's
we
correct.
had all the meeting and how much the turf field was gonna cost, and all the explanation at town meeting, and the ballot question was virtually the same exact question.
so the 10 million, so theoretically that 10 million is going to be reduced by some grant that we're going to find out
Yeah,
between
MSBA
now?
grant.
4.5, MSBA has already issued.
Like 45%.
So
Up
that
to.
10 is already reduced to 6 something,
Yeah.
and then the Hamilton portion is
It's about-
65% of that.
Right, so about
Yep.
$4 million for Hamilton's side.
Okay, and all that's going to be
So
sort
you're
of known.
concerned about if you walk into the ballot box, you won't.
It just seemed to me a little bit confusing as to, I mean, I know we've done it before for multiple times, but every time it's like, wait, I just want transparency as to what the amount is that's going to be taken on as debt, right? And not just sort of, it just felt like, but separate from the town meeting, as long as it's understood.
To give you a little bit more context, for the last 4 years, we've been projecting this roof
Yeah.
at $5 or $6 million, as well as the water projects at $10 million. So we've been projecting this for the last 4 or 5 years, if you've been paying attention.
Yeah, that's the operative word there.
I understand.
To say, to pay our share of allocable
When you go to
share.
vote, what do you have in front of you?
Yeah.
Right.
But we'll make sure it's in the book recommendations. We'll ask Eric to, he'll explain it, similar to what he did with the school. And
Got it.
so it'll be out there.
And I just want to encourage, like, you guys, since we have to pay for it, right, but we're not involved in it, it's just one of these weird things, right, where they get to decide what to do, but then we pay for it. Like, I wish there could be more of an iterative engagement with the towns, right, like Ben's saying, like, we should be involved in some of this process, right, because we might want to add a little bit more to make it a better long-term something, whereas the school may or may not have that same input, they're trying to get it done, so, anyway.
I'll just make a couple of comments. John McGrath, FinCom. So, we've been talking about the high school roof for about 5 years. In the multiple meetings we've had with the school this year, 5 chairs, public meetings.
5 boards.
5 boards. Well, 5 chair meeting and 5 board
Both
meeting.
of them, right.
We've been talking about this roof and the fact that it's going to be an override. Eric has offered multiple times to brief whoever wants to know about it and is more than willing to go through the details. He is following the MSBA process, and because he was able to get $4.5 million of grant money. So, just to be fair to everybody, it's been a multi-year conversation, and over the last 6 months, a multi-meeting conversation, and most of those meetings are public. So just to kind of talk about transparency, it's out there if you so choose to roll up your sleeves, dig into a meeting, and ask some questions.
Yeah.
And you can always come to a FinCom meeting, and we'll fill you in as well. So I understand the passion and the interest.
That's
Okay.
John asking for an audience.
Not really.
No, without a doubt, it's been out there,
It's
and
out
we've
there.
been highlighting this for
But
years,
I
to your point.
understand
But I bet if we
that-
took a poll
Just the engineering piece.
to 100 people, they're not gonna know the dollar amount in town.
Yeah.
Sure.
Scott Mattern, 12 Old Cart
Thought you
Road.
moved.
Good to see you all. Greatly appreciate the work you do, all the meetings you have, all the meetings that the FinCom has. And this is actually a well-attended meeting relatively. To reach the voters, I think we should learn from the last school failed vote, where there were 400 new, never attended before town meeting voters. Yeah, so they don't come to these meetings. You produce great stuff, John. I challenge anybody here to open up a town PDF and try to read on your phone and get all what you want to get. I think your communication with the schools and to the public should change radically and go into the social media world. You should fund that. You should have clear graphics and summaries of what's going on, solicit information that way, because that's how the voters are getting this stuff. So this is great. Glad you're having the Warren hearings. You're following the laws and the rules and regs, but the world's different. You've got high attention, have decreased trust in the schools. If we don't change how we communicate, I can't see how we're going to get a different outcome.
Yeah, no, what we do is great, but it doesn't scale to the larger audience for sure. And it is interesting, to Deb's point, that it falls short of a dollar amount. I don't know what the harm with that would be, but the ballot question.
Right. So I would suggest, I've asked Joe this, to include in this year's budget for the town. It's always tight, but to start doing more social media budgeting and communication, work that with the schools.
Definitely.
Because it's hard to pick up this information even though as informed everybody is here, and digging into it sounds great, and being a concerned citizen is great, but how do you really find out stuff for the majority of the voters who are going to show up in April and vote?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
That is a segue into, well, we need to take a vote on this.
Yeah, we need to take a vote. We did motions already, right?
Motion,
Took a
second.
motion, it was seconded. Good discussion, everybody. So I'll do a roll call vote, starting with you, Rosie, on the language for the debt exclusion.
Yeah, Rosie Kennedy,
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Galuza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. So we're good with the debt exclusion language. Do we need to go through the same thing in the operating override for the town?
I think you should read the question.
Okay.
And then, when you get to it, just ask, Wendy will provide the number again. I know it's 1.3 something.
Yeah.
Is that number in there, Tom? Did you include the number in the?
it's in there.
So we
I
include the
believe
number in
believe it's
that one?
included in.
It's in that,
It
and the override
yes.
is included, yes. And the operating override, the number.
Right, but so what's the difference from a statute? You said, like, we include the number in ballot one, but question two on the debt exclusion, we don't. What's the differentiator there?
That's how the statute is written.
Okay, so like operating
And it's
expense
also,
versus-
surprisingly enough, a debt exclusion, the ballot question to approve a debt exclusion vote is a 2/3 vote of the select board to put it on the
Okay.
warrant. An override, which has, arguably a greater and longer impact, is a majority vote, and you have to include the dollar amount. So it's the way the statute's drafted.
Interesting.
Do you want,
All right.
question with the number? You want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read it. So the ballot question reads as, shall the town of Hamilton be allowed to assess an additional $1,340,505? Wendy can confirm that number for me after I'm done. In real estate and personal property taxes for the purpose of funding the operating budget of the town and its assessment for the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026. Is that number still good, Wendy? And
Yes, it is.
okay, and do we don't reference the split of the number between what's from the district versus the town, or that's not part of this?
No.
Will that be part of a discussion in town meeting?
Part of the discussion at town meeting.
Okay.
And in all literature and social media posts I make between now and then.
Okay, well, this seems pretty thorough, including the number. So I'll entertain a motion first, and then we can have some discussion for ballot question number one. Ben, since you're here.
Oh, sorry. So
You can
moved.
just, so moved.
Yep, sorry.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion on the language of ballot question one?
Just by way of providing information, since it was just raised by Mr. Mattern, I'd say that the town side of the override does include $50,000 that would be used to enhance communications with the public. That was part of my goals from the select board. It was in the original budget request, but as we were asked to make very, very difficult decisions on what we could live without if we had to, that went into the bucket of things that would have to be covered by the override.
And we'll-
That's Scott. No.
And we'll itemize that.
He missed all of it, so that's okay.
You were saying something about attention.
No, I was texting him the number. Okay, any other, I know we've got a lot ahead of us still. I just want to keep the meeting moving and be efficient here. Any other discussion on that language or any other additional information we want out of this? I think we do have it's further down in the agenda as well, but any discussion on the ballot language?
Well, I would just like to make a comment that I appreciate Scott's comments about communication. I think that the onus of this requirement is on the school district and the school district, because they're the ones who are asking for a very large override, and they're the ones who really need to explain this to the public. I don't think it should be on the plate of the select board, since it's not us, right? It's not us, and we're not privy to their thought process. So I just would probably take a little exception to that. It's not our responsibility to explain the school department's reasoning. It's theirs. And yes, I agree, they should be very communicative and very transparent with the public, and I would expect that they will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's that we're not privy is the thing I like to change, right? And I think that's what Scott might have been talking about too. It's like the collaboration and the knowledge we have before, instead of going back and asking questions about mechanical equipment, et cetera, on what they're doing.
Could I add one more thing? I think it is your job. The select board, by law, calls a meeting, brings the warrant. FinCom needs to advise on that. There's all sorts of topics in there. You get experts, Tim talking about water. More integration with the schools is better for us. And you take a position on each warrant article.
We do.
So to get educated and your job to help communicate to your voters is part of your job. And therefore, I think you should be funded with technology to help you do that easier.
Agree. Don't disagree. It's in the budget, well, hopefully. But I do agree there's opportunity there. And I will also recognize a lot of progress has been made in the FinCom working hand in hand and the boards and chair meetings. There's been a lot, but definitely always room for improvement. So with that said, we can do a roll call vote on the language of ballot question 1, starting with you, Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Benjamin?
Ben Bluza, aye.
Bill Wilson, aye. And Bill Olson never joined, correct?
No, it hasn't
Okay,
joined yet.
no worries.
I will just add, these questions will be put onto a form that will include space for your signatures. I only
Okay.
have 2 of you in the room tonight anyway, so we'll get that ready for you this week. We need it signed so that it can be sent to the state by the town clerk. So I'd ask you all to work with my office or the clerk to make sure that you get it signed this week, please.
Is that for both of these?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we can include, I think we can include them on one sheet. Yeah,
I
we'll include
believe
them on
so.
one sheet.
Yes, that's
with-
correct.
With signature block for all of you, so.
Okay.
And I gotta say it one more time, I do think it's disappointing that we say our allocable share versus a dollar amount. And I think it helps the school's cause. It's not to throw a shock wave out there. It's, hey, we need this, you know. I'm surprised. I agree. I mean, I understand statutory language and such, but it's surprising we don't put the dollar amount in there, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but.
Yeah, no, I appreciate.
Let's just start with the statute reads.
So I'll ask the question, could we put it in there, or are we
No.
not allowed to?
You're
No,
not
I
allowed
think
to.
what I heard was no to that
Right,
earlier.
Correct. You have to follow the statutory form, and it's not in the form.
All right, I appreciate that discussion. So we'll move now to finalize and potentially close the warrant, right, for town meeting. I think we had, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you don't mind me setting it up for you.
Yeah.
So you got, the draft warrant has been done by Tom. I will note a couple things for you. The draft warrant includes a placeholder for any citizen petition questions, but as of close of business today, there were no citizen petition questions that have been entered. So you'll close the warrant this evening. I'll need a vote for you to close the warrant, and that means there will be no citizen petition questions on this town meeting, so we can take that block out of the town meeting warrant. That's one thing. The other thing is, you can go through any or all of the articles in the warrant, but the main job is to close the warrant with what it is you want on there. So you've got the draft. If there are any of the items, and we've highlighted the ones that aren't not necessarily guaranteed to be on, sale of patent homestead, gun club lease renewals, specialized stretch code, prudent investment rule, and then the operating override and debt exclusion votes. You've already approved the ballot question language. I would assume the other 2 will have to get approved. Those we can do some things with in the warrant as far as explaining splits and things like that and what the money's going to. So we have more time between tonight's vote and when we finalize the warrant language to actually work on that stuff. Tonight, you just want to clarify which of these items are going to be on the warrant
Okay.
and then vote to close the warrant.
Okay, and are we gonna just focus on these bulleted in the agenda, or do we wanna walk through the articles as outlined?
Completely up to you. I can pull.
I mean, I'm good with just walking through the ones outlined. I mean, do we even have prior year bills, or?
Wendy, do we have prior year bills? I don't think we do.
Bill, can I just make one
Yes,
comment?
yes, we do, actually.
Oh.
I don't have it told for you right now, though.
Okay.
He has to leave. If
Okay.
you have any questions for her, relative to any.
So why don't we just,
perspective.
since Vicky's here, thank you, why don't we jump to the specialized stretch code? Is that all right with everybody? I know there's a couple things we had above it, but I think that's kind of the meat of the order right now for discussion. We had a good, robust discussion, I think, at our last meeting. We had asked for some follow-up. We got a one-pager. Still, there's some unclarity, I think, from things made in public comment relative to, some of the requirements we talked about. It only affects, some of the larger home pre-wiring. We went through the cost on that. I think we had some questions on ADUs And I think, from what I'm reading, the differentiator is whether or not it's a separate attachment, it would, but if it's part of the house, it would not. Because I'm hearing it does apply, and I'm hearing it doesn't apply in certain things. But I think that is the differentiator, correct?
Okay, well, you already also asked for Rich Maloney to be here.
Yes, I'm gonna get to that next.
Rich is here as well, so you
Okay.
get Vicky and Rich here at your request.
Okay.
So,
So why don't we just do that then? Why don't we, because we didn't have the pleasure of you last time, why don't we start with you? We know you had some thoughts on this, and the board is very interested to get your input on this code. So maybe we start with that, if that's okay?
Sure,
Sure.
sure. So,
Sorry.
the hot seat?
The hot seat.
So I've been involved with the building codes for a long time. I'll give you I sent Joe a memo. It's been about a year, right, Joe?
Yeah.
February of 2025.
Yep.
Joe asked me for my opinion. Emmett asked me for my opinion. So prior to 2003, there were 4 national building codes throughout the country. And in the early 2000s, those 4 national codes came together and formed the ICC, the International Code Council. And nationwide, we have 1 building code that everybody uses. It's used internationally also. That's a great thing, uniformity in the construction industry. And in 2008, Deval Patrick was the governor of Massachusetts, and they came up with the Green Communities Act and came up with the Stretch Energy Code, which after everything that happened in the building code industry, we get uniformity, and what does Massachusetts do? Throws a wrench into the uniformity. So from 2008, I have opposed the Stretch Energy Code from its inception. And now we come with the specialized, there's actually 4 energy codes in Massachusetts. You can have the regular IECC, you can have the Stretch. We are a Stretch community, so isn't Wenham. This is a specialized opt-in code. This is a 3rd option, and there is other options. There's one more option. It's so confusing. Anyway, so I am against it. I am a part of New England Building Officials. We are an ICC educational chapter. So I'm an ICC voting member, and I'm an ICC. We run a nonprofit education arm for ICC. So that is a philosophical thing. So I am against anything other than the basic energy code. The basic energy code gets upgraded every 3 years. In Massachusetts, in that 2008 Green Communities Act, by statutes, has to adopt the most recent energy code change within 6 months of its inception. So just by that, the energy code changes. It gets upgraded every 3 years.
When was the last time it was updated?
2023.
Right.
And the irony of it that in 2018, the IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code, surpassed Massachusetts Stretch Energy Code. And if you were a stretch community, you couldn't use the new code. You had to use the outdated stretch code. So just the dynamics of it, as I predicted in 2008 what would happen, that did happen. So anyway, so that's why I'm against it. It's a local thing. You guys are already a stretch community, so it's it's up to the voters, I guess. That's really my take on it. The specialized opt-in code only applies to new structures. And then there's 2 levels. So you have to pre-wire, if you're gonna use any carbon fuel, you have to pre-wire the house. So if you got a gas furnace, you gotta pre-wire for all electric, mini splits, that kind of thing. You gotta get ready. So Emmett did an excellent job. We sat down, it was a great asset, was the electrical inspector, Dennis Curran. He really was the guy that gave us the insight of what the changes would cost. And Emmett put together an estimate what it would cost for a new house if you want to go with fossil fuels and the difference in that house. And then there's another level, if the house is greater than 4,000 square feet, now it has to not be solar ready, it has to have solar on it.
Solar on it.
Both situations now have that solar. They changed it just in the last 2 months.
Yeah, I can't even keep up. You have to have a third party, a HERS rater, on all new dwellings. It's a third party. It's so complex that they're telling us that the house complies, and they do inspections and give us paperwork.
Is that already with the
Yes.
stretch
Already,
code?
already,
That
yes,
we're in-
yes.
The one that we're already in?
That's correct.
Okay.
So anyway, and that leads to, somebody had said earlier that once you're into it, they can make changes. So they've already made changes.
Right, exactly.
So
But
that,
it's not for retrofit built house, it's for future building permits.
right now it is. Anyway, so that's it. So there's two levels, ADUs. So detached ADUs will have to comply with the Optin code.
The current stretch code, if,
They comply with the stretch code. They do have a reduced energy rating index, though. There were some kind of problems getting these things to meet the energy rating index because they're smaller. But, so they have a new house with fossil fuel is 42 on the energy rating index. Completely solar house is a 45. You get 3. The lower is the harder number to get, obviously. And the ADUs can be between 52 to 58, I believe. So there's some kind of trouble getting the smaller units to comply with the energy rating index. That's current. So the ADUs, because by statute, there can only be 900 square feet, so they'll never have to have that 4,000, they're never gonna cross the 4,000 square foot threshold. But you're saying that they have to have solar?
A minimal amount.
Minimal, 4K.
For the ADU, you're talking
As
about
long as they're
ADU
not
only?
shaded.
Anything under 4,000 square feet is 4K, anything above has to provide.
All right, so the
full
AD,
electric-
the new
full
detached ADUs under the specialized option code have solar. They're not exempt.
That's what they said.
The only exemption in the energy code for the ADUs now is the reduced energy rating.
This
So
one's
can we just-
Homes over 4,000 square feet that are not all electric must install enough solar or other renewables to offset all of the home's energy use. So you're saying
That's
that this,
greater than 4,000.
oh, this is great, so anything
Under
over
Yeah.
4,000.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I believe that you're correct.
So there's no requirement to have solar on less than 4,000 square foot house.
so,
That's what we're reading today.
It's 4K of solar on a less than 4,000 square foot house is what they're saying.
4KW.
4K.
You sure?
There was we can double check that, but yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I
That's
thought
what
that.
the sheet says.
You have somebody raising their hand, it's Dylan Patel from the State of Florida, I don't.
Dylan's on.
Yeah, we do have Dylan's online. Can you help clarify that?
Dylan. He
Yeah,
did
let's,
some extra
Dylan, why don't we
research on
recognize
it
Dylan
for us.
if he's listening to
So
that
thank you.
specific.
He raised his hand, so.
All right, Dylan?
Hello, thank you for recognizing me. My name is Dylan Patel. I'm with the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources, the Green Communities Division. New construction houses that are greater than 4,000 square feet have to have enough solar to be net zero. New construction houses that are smaller than 4,000 square feet have to have a minimum of 4 kilowatts of solar. Accessory dwelling units that are detached follow specialized stretch code regulations, which could include solar, but realistically, you're not going to have enough roof space to do it. So even though it's technically required, practically, you would be exempt.
Claire is,
How do you input? That's ridiculous.
yeah, that's, I fault the state in a lot of this, the clarity and how do you follow it. But,
Well,
So-
I mean, I could just observe that we asked the HEIC to come up with a one-pager, and just in the couple of days since we asked them to come up with a one-pager, the rule changed. It's just,
No,
no, it's in the one pager. Less than 4, yeah.
It's been incorporated, you guys sat down with the electrical specialist as well. So those changes that happened 2 months ago have been incorporated in this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is in that box now, I see home type.
Yeah, to the right.
Mixed fuel
Yeah.
less than 4,000 square feet does take the 4 kilowatt. And
Unless it's a passive, yeah.
So how, is that, like, can someone size that for me? What's 4 kilowatt equal for panels? Is that,
No idea.
350 watts per module, so just do the math.
Okay.
Could I ask a question of Dylan?
Yes, Rosie.
I have just two questions. When I was reading over this specialized code, two specific questions regarding renovations. I'm hearing you say that it's new construction. There's a section in the specialized code which you could probably, which you would probably know about more than me, but there is language that talks about renovations over 1,000 square feet needing to comply with the specialized code. And further, as an adjunct to that, if you're doing a renovation on your house and you decide to knock down 50% of it and rebuild it, that becomes a new building. Can you just talk to both those points and explain them?
So any renovation that's made to a dwelling that is over 1,000 square feet has to follow stretch code rules that are currently in place in Hamilton. I don't believe that there is any language in the appendices that make up the specialized code that refer to any existing building. A partial destruction and reconstruction might have to follow specialized. It depends if you're building a new construction permit for that. If you are, then you'll have to follow the specialized code regulations. If it's an alteration, then you just follow the stretch code.
Right, but if you're taking down any renovation, building new, I mean, there was a question there about needing to follow the specialized. And then just as one follow-up question to that, do I understand correctly that the stretch code that we are enrolled in now, if we opt for the specialized code, then we will incorporate all the changes to the stretch code along with the specialized code. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, but you already do that.
Okay, all right, so we already, all of the changes in 2023 and subsequently, we would need to adhere to for the stretch code.
You're doing that now.
Okay, so there would be no change to that, okay. Thank you.
One of the other questions that somebody I think brought up around, power outages, and so, it's common a lot of times if people live in more rural communities, maybe they have a propane generator, if they're not connected to the natural gas system, is that allowed? Is that
No penalty.
no penalty for that? So if people want a backup generator, they can do it that way if they're not connected to the gas, if they fall under one of the all-electric options? Okay.
Yes, you may have a backup generation unit and still be classed as an all-electric house if you have electric heat, hot water, clothes drying, and water heating equipment.
Any comments on, we had some questions about the state being able to fund some of these initiatives on a go forward. I think I read something in the one pager that 27 grants were funded, but any insight relative to funding availability going forward? We talk about years and years of savings and such, but do you see any risk in funding with the state?
Well, I think already the State House News Corps, which I read this morning, there's already been $1 billion in cuts to the Mass Save program. So I don't know what the actual number of billions of dollars are invested into the Mass Save program, but that's a.
Yeah, I don't know. I was kind of referencing to Dylan if he had thoughts on that.
So the funding that we have for the Climate Leaders Program has already been obligated through fiscal 2027. That is through the alternative compliance payments. Those are payments that fossil fuel power generators make within the state. After FY27, because obviously that's soon, we will be funding our Climate Leaders Program under the umbrella of our Green Communities Program, which we get payments through the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which is a multi-state compact to reduce carbon emissions. It's basically a carbon cap and trade program. And while I cannot comment on pending legislation that's coming through the House, we have been part of RGGI for many, many years now, and it will continue to fund the Green Communities and the Green Communities Plus Climate Leaders Program.
Okay, thank you. I guess, yeah, and what about just the demand on the grid? Like if everybody all in, would we have an issue?
That's a really good question. The way that we've designed both the stretch and the specialized energy codes is, well, let me first say that obviously both codes do encourage electrification. That's a given. That's not going to be such a burden on the grid because they're designed to minimize the incremental demand from space heating. I've heard comments about, different mandates about EVs and demand growth from other areas, and that's all true. The way that we're designing the grid, the way that we're designing the stretch and specialized energy codes is to make sure that all energy demand is occurring off-peak periods. Because it doesn't technically matter that electricity use is increasing, it's about when it's increasing. And if we can encourage and design buildings so that they are using electricity off-peak times, then it's not going to impact the grid as much. And in fact, National Grid is designing time of use rates. It's already created rates to encourage charging for electric vehicles off-peak periods. And both the stretch and specialized code really crush space heating demands. So adopting the specialized code is actually a grid-friendly measure, in DOER's opinion.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna see if there's anything else also sensitive to Vicky's time, but if you have something direct on that, this is your biz.
I guess the other question is this step change doesn't affect any of our municipal buildings at all, really. It just opens up the opportunity to access grants for municipal buildings and schools. So they're the beneficiary, but they're not subject to it. I guess that's the main issue there when it comes to the town.
Is that correct,
Is that
John?
correct?
That it won't affect municipal buildings? I guess because chapter 23 does address commercial buildings. Would the municipal building not be considered under the commercial?
It is. Municipal buildings are considered under commercial, so it would affect any new municipal construction as well.
So it would, okay. Okay, thank you.
Affect us if we build a new building.
If we build a new building.
Any of those
There's
in the
nothing
capital
planned.
plan?
Changes.
We're not putting an ADU off of the town hall or anything.
I'm not proposing any new buildings.
You want to
anytime
move to
soon.
town, Joe? What's
I
happening?
Yeah, that's what I was
want to
thinking.
move to town hall, and I don't want to do any more new building for a while.
All right.
So are there similar thresholds associated with this? If we did some sort of a consolidation in 10 or 15 years, but that's long grass, out in the long grass stuff. So, we haven't dug into that at all.
Jeff Alsop has his hand raised. Wants to be recognized. Public comment.
Dylan, are there similar thresholds, around this, we said 4,000 square feet for single-family residential, for municipal buildings. Is it a similar kind of rubric, or what are we looking at there?
The way that the commercial code treats building size, I don't believe that there are any thresholds with regard to different levels of regulations. They treat solar differently. It's like a minimum wattage per square foot of the roof space. The only threshold that exists in the commercial building code is with multifamily buildings, because multifamily residential, for one reason or the other, is in the residential in the commercial code. So if a multifamily building is bigger than 12,000 square feet, that falls under the commercial code. That would be passive house standards. But if we're talking about like a generic office space, municipal building, then that's slightly more uniform.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that from your presentation now, from a couple months ago. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Sorry, Jeff.
Yeah, let's go with Jeff online, and we'll close up with you and go right to you, Vicki.
Hello, everyone. Jeff Alsop, 11 Blackbrook Road and 587 Bay Road. There's a lot of sheriffs in town, and one is Rich, and I agree with Rich's point of view on this. We have uniform building codes, and the town has adopted the stretch code, and it's been very successful. We are green builders. We build to a higher standard than stretch, but we're not particularly interested in passive house. We're interested in contextual architecture and buildings that look like belong in Hennepin. So, I think in this case we're adding a lot of ambiguity. I had a conversation with them, and I don't agree with chasing grants in spite of good policy. Grants come and go. We don't know whether they're coming and go. There's probably a lot of other opportunities to get solar on our high school. I support solar. I have it on my buildings. But I would say that when you get into passive house for multifamily, the stretch code is already capable of producing amazingly efficient buildings. So when you add passive house, which is limits the amount of operable windows, there's a certain consideration that you have to do to meet passive house. So now you have another sheriff. We've got our building inspector. We've got state codes. We have stretch codes. And now we're talking about specialized code. I don't think we know enough about this. I don't think we know enough about what would be changed, and then we would be responsible for withdrawing something. It's really hard to back out of something once you've already got it in place. I don't think we're there. I think the town deserves more information. I think there needs to be more shakeout on energy supplies, sources, all these things. I think it's a bad idea, and I support you not supporting it going on the warrant. If it goes on the warrant, I would really encourage you not to support it, because if it goes on the warrant, you have to give an opinion.
Yep.
So at this point, how can you give an opinion? It's so premature. Thank you.
Okay, anything else to add from your seats, or?
None.
All right. Vicki, anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
You want the hot seat?
The hot
All
seat.
right, thanks, Rich, thanks. I would just add, my role has just been really connecting the dots between this program, between some of the big capital projects going in town, the rooftop at the high school. And I just think this is a really unique opportunity to fold these programs together and really get a good project at the high school, in the immediate future. So I would say that, if we could fund that solar through this grant, and I understand people who aren't for chasing grants because they feel like you're paying somewhere else for the grant money that you're getting. But if we could pay for that solar array with grant funding, then that is all savings that the school is going to get that could offset some of that capital that you're asking the voters for. So to me, this makes the roof project a lot more palatable. And I don't even live in town, so I can't speak as a taxpayer, but if I was a taxpayer, that's how I would be looking at it. So that's the only comment I have.
And that has time commitments for the school project, just that, for approval would be required at this town meeting this April to get into a funding program that would help with that. And that grant would save us roughly $250,000 a year, is what I heard or read.
Yeah,
in
I
electric
mean,
bills.
considering current electric rates, and electric rates are only
Right,
going to go
only
up.
going up,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This is hard.
Can I make 2 comments here?
Yeah, let's, any questions for Vicky across the board? Go ahead,
Yep,
Rosie.
so first comment is, I think it's important that we continually reinforce that any grant potential is not guaranteed. We get in line like every other community and we apply for it. So I think that's something that we need to make very clear. Second thing is, Vicki, on an email, you talked about an alternative to this particular grant, where you said there was another program where we could investigate and probably get some solar. You didn't elaborate on that, but I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about that, just in a nutshell. I mean,
Sure.
I guess what I'm trying to say is there are other ways. First of all, it's not guaranteed, and secondly, you had talked about another program. So could you just very quickly review how we would do that?
Sure, so an alternate way to, Darcy Dale had asked me is there any other way to get solar on the roof of the high school? And I said, yeah, of course, you can do it the way we did it at the Hamilton Wenham Library, which is third-party financed. So a solar company comes in, they basically lease your roof, they own and operate the solar array, they sell you all the power they generate, and you get, in return, credits on your electric bills. So that's how it works at the library. So yes, you can build solar that way, and a lot of times they market it as budget neutral or a little bit of savings. But if you can own the array, which we would do through a grant, own the whole thing, then you own all the savings and all the power that array generates. So it's just more lucrative for the town to own it,
So
if that makes sense.
If we were to apply for it's 250,000, if we own the solar, and if you use like the library model, is it, it's at 250, is it 100, or is it like $25,000 of savings? Like, I'm trying to understand like the order of magnitude difference between us owning it outright versus getting a cut of savings. I know it probably changes a lot, but it's not like,
There's different ways to format it. Sometimes it's just a fixed number of pennies off of retail, which it is at the landfill. So for every kilowatt hour that landfill solar produces, we get 2 cents of savings.
okay.
If you own it, you get 100%.
So 2 cents on, what's the standard rate these days? 17, 18 cents, something like that now.
For supply, yeah, 15. It's just the supply, because you're still going to pay distribution.
Yeah, distribution,
So 15, I think, is what Hamilton's paying now.
We used TELP financing to do the solar rooftop on the DPW garage, which will power the high school. I mean, which will power the town hall.
And we're gonna own that array.
And we're gonna
Yeah,
own that array.
we're gonna own it.
So-
We
so
do own
could-
it.
We could look to do a TELP, we could ask the school district to look to do a TELP on rooftop solar on the high school then, as a potential, as a second alternative.
What is that? Sorry, Joe.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
don't-
tax exempt lease purchase, so it's another third-party program, but it's arranged differently than what we do with the high school, with the library group. So it's another way to,
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that.
Okay.
But there's definitely other ways to build it. It's just about what generates the most savings
Right.
for the town. I mean,
Yeah,
I think I read
Towns-
that the program through this specialized code would save about 83 or 85% of the bill. Like, can you equate a percent of the bill if we leased it, that we would save roughly? I
well,
know you
that's
said
how
2
much,
cents.
if we built out the whole solar on the roof, that's the percent of the total electric use that the solar would satisfy.
Right, oh.
So, but you're asking for the dollar amount?
Just curious to identify the savings between lease versus own, so to basically.
Okay.
You said 2 cents, and then I got a dollar amount on the other one, but
Yeah, I guess I'd have to get deeper into lease versus own.
Yeah, okay. Rosie, did you have anything else, or was that, as far as alternative ways to do it, or?
You know, we have to do sort of a risk, you know, a cost-benefit analysis, and I think we cannot be guaranteed a grant, and we should really not be basing this one project on what it would cost to the town collectively to do something like this, to enroll in a specialized code, especially where we've heard Rich talk about so many uncertainties. I'm just not sure. You know, just my comments are sincere. I believe in clean energy, green energy. I just need to look at the other side of it, the cost. And so that's what I really struggle with. And as Rich has pointed out, he's our town expert, right, on building codes and adherence to codes. And he's himself told us it's perplexing. I looked at the statute, I believe it's 25A, that the specialized code, the building codes come under. And already since 2023, since this went through its inception, there have been at least 64 section changes and amendments. It's not a settled code, and I wonder what the future would bring, because we are obligated to adhere to any future amendments. I worry about that, and while I certainly agree that the stretch code has proven very, very helpful, we need to think about the costs of going forward realistically.
Okay. Any other, Tom or Ben? Questions of Vicky or overall?
I have no more questions, but I think we should deliberate as a board, so we can let
Okay.
everyone go who needs to go.
All right, why don't we do that? A lot of good discussion.
Thank you, Vicky.
Yeah, thank you, Vicky.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we heard a lot. We asked questions of last week. I think, people came back. I kind of, in some ways, fault the state for the kind of spot we're in and the clarity of how this is managed and stuff. But I struggle a bit between our role of putting it on the warrant and letting citizens decide versus our responsibility of making sure we understand and have vetted and put something on the warrant, versus really like, would Bill Wilson vote for it? And right now, we're not asking if Bill Wilson would vote for it, or Ben, or Rosie, or Tom. We're saying, the town has previously voted, for us to move on this initiative. We put the environmental committee together. They've done their work. Kudos to the work that you've done. You've brought it back to this body, this governing body, to, with all the information that we asked for. And now we're kind of weighing the pros and cons of with what they brought me, not questioning what you brought us as much, but is that ready, and do we put it in front of the townspeople who asked for this in prior votes and allow them to vote for it? And then in a future meeting, we'll vote whether we are in favor or not, right? That's where we're at. So that's kind of where I know last week I was pretty vocal about this and kind of leaning, not ready, just asking questions. I think I've gotten a lot of those questions answered. And I'm kind of leaning right now relative to that, we've got to it's probably time to bring it to the town and to say what we want, to say what we don't know, to say what we know, and let them opine on this and to vote. That's kind of where I'm sitting right now, but interested in hearing what, the rest of the board has to say.
Can I suggest you ask for a motion to include this on the warrant or not?
Should we start with that?
So
and then
start with a
discussion?
motion so you can have the discussion.
Okay, can I get a motion for the April town meeting warrant in the inclusion of specialized stretch code
So
adoption?
moved.
So we have moved by Ben. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Tom. So very interested to hear where the rest of the board is at, kind of relative to, is it ready for town time to talk about this, tell the town where we're at, tell them what we don't know, tell them what we know, and let them opine, or does this thing need to bake longer? Why don't we start with Rosie?
Trustee Kennedy, nay.
No, further discussion, we're not ready to vote. I think you just did discuss, your points relative to the confusion, our inspector's comments and such, so I don't want to just have you reiterate what you just said, but, I just want to do a round robin here on any further comment from Tom, Ben, you and I. So I think you've said your piece, it sounds like. Okay, Tom?
I said my piece, yes.
Tom Myers, any other further comments, thoughts? Where are you at?
I'll jump in and chat. I think first of all, I think it was super helpful that everyone sort of weighed in on this, and it really gave me a lot of knowledge on this perspective. And I've been supportive of the HEIC putting this forward for a while now, and I have mixed feelings on it as well, right? So I think Rosie made some good points around sort of listening to the building inspector and Rich. Around sort of the changes in the law and sort of the uncertainty. I definitely think that's something to factor in. But, from what I'm hearing so far from last week's presentation, on some of the impacts to today, it sounds like there's definitely an impact on the building community, right? For instance, there's going to be compliance with codes that are sort of uncertainty. I think there's some cost impact on new construction, and I know the comment last week was, on a $2 million house, it might look like $8,000 to $10,000 to $12,000, to come to compliance with this code. I'm hearing today that it's certain ADUs may or may not be impacted, and impacting renovations over 1,000. It sounds like I'm trying to grasp my head around what is the actual impact to the everyday taxpayer. It sounds like it is a select group that are going to really be feeling this in the pocket when they're building a new construction or doing a substantial renovation. So I don't know the numbers on how many renovations we have in Hamilton and how often that occurs, and maybe we need that number, but it sounds like last week it was 4 to 5 new houses that are being developed. So it seems like, at least what I'm hearing, the impact is some cost to taxpayers that are building new or doing substantial renovations. There's also an impact of the building community to try and wrap their head around these different regulations they need to comply with. I'm sure that's a hassle and a lot of work and money that goes towards their perspective. So I understand some of that impact, and maybe I'm missing some things, but at the end of the day, I think those can be dealt with, and we can, get through those. And I think there is some substantial benefits here. And I look at, I don't think that, environmental grants and green grants are going away anytime soon. I think there's motivation, especially in where we live, highlighting environmental awareness and being green and carbon neutral. And I think that's been a huge initiative of our town, and we voted for it. To sort of, reduce our carbon footprint. And I don't see it as chasing grants. I see it as, trying to get more funding to a town that has a very limited supply of funding. I mean, we've talked about this so many different times that 97% of our, funding for our town comes from the taxpayer and through property taxes, and we don't have any other commercial tax base. We don't have any other, revenue streams to sort of support the initiatives. And now we're faced with, an override and a debt exclusion, and every time a proposal comes to this board where we have an opportunity for cost savings or for new revenue, whether it's selling a tower, whether it's, moving regional, whatever it is, there's always opposition to moving in that direction. Yet we are constantly being reminded that taxes are going up and our taxes are high, yet every time we try and pursue something that's going to get us more funding, we are met with, fear and what could that possibly be, and let's keep Hamilton the way it is. So my opinion is $1 million is a substantial amount of money that we could be, the recipient of, and it could benefit our schools. It could help us in the near future with our tax rate, with our, maybe not having a debt exclusion, in the next couple of years, maybe not having to ask for an override. So I think as a small community that has a high tax rate, that has very limited commercial base, we have to do everything we can to try and chase that funding. And so I would be supportive of not only putting this on the warrant, but I'd be supportive of the select board voting in favor of it.
Okay, Tom. Ben?
I think that was very well said. There's not a lot to add to it other than to say I agree with most of what Tom said. I just kind of want to echo a couple of key points. As far as the citizens and taxpayers go, it's kind of a looking forward thing, and as it's currently structured, it's going to affect a small handful of people who may potentially move to this town. I think in the very first conversation we had with Dylan, I really appreciated him coming tonight because it reminded me we talked about the multifamily project that's already been built in town, so the passive house standard. So it kind of shows that developers can get up to that level even in larger buildings that are slightly more complicated than a single family one. I've had the benefit of seeing some of these houses get built, and they are typically built to a higher quality standard, and it does tend to reduce energy costs, right? So even though they might be paying a little bit more, if it's $12,000, or they did this additional due diligence with our special electrical inspector that said it could be up to $30,000, they're probably going to be saving that back just through their energy bills, right? By going to this next level, this next tier. I've seen it in practice time and time again. Once you achieve these higher quality standards of construction around, especially air tightness and where the leaks occur, I know that it is nice to have certain aesthetics when it comes to windows and sizes. However, this stuff pays for itself when it's done right, and it's done to this new high standard. So I see it as it's difficult because it's complex, and I understand that there's more professionals that are then needed to get through these certifications. But given that there's been such a move in this direction, if they had a more cost-effective or simpler way to ensure that buildings could always be built to the same high quality through prescriptive measures, I think they would have done it by now, right? And a lot of that stuff we see things come in prescriptively, like LED lights. Like that's an easy thing to specify. When it comes to the fabric of the building and the whole home performance, it's just not as easy to get there. And so it ends up being complicated because the physics are complicated. The construction techniques are, but there are ways to get there, and that's the thing that's left. The heat pumps are getting more efficient, solar panels are getting more efficient, the water heaters are more efficient, the lights are more efficient. The only thing that's left is the building fabric. So I was glad to hear that people can still get propane generators, as my parents have up in Maine. They lose power a lot more than we do down here, and they're out in the boonies, so they've got a giant propane tank and generator, whole house. More stories there about the kind of their energy efficiency journey, but happy to share those too, because they've been the beneficiary of a lot of these types of practices. So I look at it from this chair of thinking about, well, what's in the best financial interest of the town from a financial perspective. I'm weighted towards, Rose brought up a good point of the cost benefit. I look at it as we have a great track record of achieving these grants. I appreciate the one pager. We've gotten $1.8 million in grants from the Green Communities Fund. Yeah. And it's like if we'd had a terrible track record at getting grant money, I'd say, well, this maybe is a bit of a lark. But the fact that we have that track record, you keep betting on yourself, right? So I think there's always the ability to repeal it, is my understanding, which would be probably a painful process to go through if we had to, through a special town meeting or something of that effect, even if it was isolated because there's some emergency and we have to repeal it immediately because there's some uplift and it's going to cost us millions instead of potentially getting $1 million. That's where I sit with it. It's just, we've got a track record. It's affecting a small handful of taxpayers the way it's currently structured. I don't think I can reasonably stand against it and say that that's in the best financial health when it comes to the town's operations. So I'm in favor of it. That's kind of where I've landed. But I get it. I understand the complexity of it. I can't deny that. It's the complexity is real.
Well said. As I started to say earlier, I struggle a bit on, whether I would vote for it versus like, have we brought this to a point where voters have previously asked us to look into this initiative. We've set goals for our community. They've gone out, they've done their homework, they've brought it back to us. Yes, it's complex. Is it clear? Not even close. And will it change? Could it evolve to favor us or disfavor us? Likely there'll be change. We just talked about a change 2 months ago. And that scares me a bit. But I also look at the project that lies ahead of us. To me, that's the school roof. And I do think, we talked a little bit and touched on lease versus own. I do think this is the best path of potential savings for the school on their operating budget, on the cost of their annual electric bill. And our only chance to get that, and there's a time constraint on that. Wenham's already put it on the warrant, right? If we don't, I don't think that it doesn't happen, right? So we take Wenham's vote off the board right away. Is that fair of us with a regional district not to be in that discussion and allow our citizens to have input as well?
Actually, could I make one comment to that, though? That actually the grant money is the town's to decide how you want to spend it. We're suggesting at the school, so Wenham can get it. And
Oh, they can, okay, so I didn't know if it was like a regional
they're not
vote with it.
connected. I just
Okay,
wanted to
forget
be
it.
clear.
No, I'm good.
But it would be a shame that the
Yeah.
Hamilton guys.
So I'm not as on board with Tom and Ben on, like I'm in favor of it. I'm not here to tell you if I'm in favor of it right now. Right now, I probably wouldn't. But I am in favor of putting it on the warrant and allowing our community to talk about it. So that's where I'm landing right now, is putting it on the warrant and let's have a discussion in front of the entire town and get feedback.
Is it okay to say that?
Be sure.
I'd just like to address one topic that's come up repeatedly, this complexity thing.
Yeah.
These codes evolve with time. The code, Rich is left, but he's constantly going to classes to learn about the newest code. As technology changes and economics change, the codes are morphing through time. So I don't think it's any more complex than what he's doing already.
Okay.
There's a little tweak to it. Yeah, he's got to learn some, 4,000 foot and so forth. But it really isn't anything different than what he's really doing already. I think he's got a philosophical issue going on, but the complexity really isn't there. I wish Dylan was still with us to speak to complexity, but I don't think it's that complex.
Okay.
There's Dylan.
Let's we're already past. We deliberated. I think we're probably at a point to go around and vote on this, just with respect to time. I always love feedback, to a fault probably, but I appreciate everybody's. Let's go around now, Rosie. We'll go back to your Rich. How do you vote on this for the warrant? To put it on include it in the warrant.
Rosie Kennedy, nay.
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Galuza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. So that passes 3-1.
That goes on the warrant, okay.
Bill didn't join us, correct?
No.
Okay, so we have other items on here. I think in respect to time, we talked a lot last week about the sale of the Patton Homestead, right? We talked about, some of the deed issues that we had, and then I guess we ended the discussion around, okay, so is it okay just to put it on there and give the town the right to negotiate at this point? So I don't know if we need further discussion on it, or if we need to vote these all individually, or we can hit them one by one if that's the case. But from a sale of Patton Homestead,
Can I make a recommendation in the interest of time?
Yeah.
Because we're losing our audience, so I think most people that were here for that
That-
conversation
exactly.
you just had. So, you have a warrant, a draft warrant in front of you that's got all the articles you need. You need to remove the citizen petition question. I think that you could probably talk to Tom and see if there's anything that he wants to make you aware of.
Okay.
About any of these other bulleted items, and if there's not, you could probably vote to close it as is. All these things are
okay,
currently there.
I'm good with that. I didn't know if you laid them out separately for that reason, these
John
five.
McGrath.
3-6. What is that?
So that was one of the ones that I had, and we included a placeholder that Joe had indicated that
Oh, yeah, we
maybe
can
the
remove that one.
possibility.
Sorry, we can remove that one.
Okay. That will take
That's not
that.
gonna be ready.
All right.
Anything else, Tom, you want to call out on here?
So, I guess the biggest articles are obviously the annual budget, which that article's the same as it is every year. Article 2-4 is the supplemental budget, which is being funded contingent upon an override question passing. So that's how it was structured. There's many different options in terms of how you want to structure these types of votes. That's probably the simplest way to do it, frankly, to have one article where you're funding your town and school budgets, and then a separate article with the supplemental budgets for each that is contingent upon the passage of the override question. But, you know, there are other ways to do it. But when I talked to Joe, we felt that was probably the easiest way to handle it in terms of both, you know, for the townsfolks and taxpayers to understand.
I think we've discussed that as a board, and everyone was in agreement with that structure.
I provided my guidance to
Yep.
Tom based on the feedback I got.
Yeah,
from the board.
exactly, so I'm good with that. I don't know if we talked earlier about the split
Sure.
of the 1.3. Is that in here? And
Well, we'll add that.
Okay.
We'll add all that definition, but it's in here to be able to say how much, and then we
Okay.
also have the brief summary that explains what's what in that, so.
Okay. Article 2-5 is the capital article, and we may need to revise the way it's drafted, depending upon whether or not there's any borrowing or lease purchases. But-
Wendy, there are no lease purchases in the capital article as we're proposing it right now, right?
Correct.
Any borrowing?
No borrowing.
No
Nothing that we're aware of right now.
Okay,
No borrowing.
thank you. The only, I'm sorry, which one, John?
That's the roof.
Okay, 2-12, that's the school roof project. So the regional school district committee approved an motion, the ballot question, and a warrant article, which is based on the MSBA standard form, which you need to use in order to have your projects funded through MSBA. We've revised this a little bit, so that it includes essentially some of the language that would otherwise be just included in the motion.
Okay.
More in the interest of transparency. For example, the MSBA standard warrant article does not include any language whatsoever with respect to the debt exclusion. We think it's better to include it in the question. It also, the standard warrant article does not include anything about the reimbursement. And we think that that's also important to include in the warrant, so that when people are looking at the warrant, they know that, that this is going to be the cost of the project, it's going to be subject to a debt exclusion vote, and that the MSBA has approved a reimbursement amount, in this case of 45.52%. It's a standard article. We've done the same thing with most, I think, MSBA articles that we include almost.
Has the school seen this view, or is this what?
No, we haven't shown it to the school yet.
Okay,
but-
I don't foresee any issue.
No,
here.
it shouldn't be. It's the same, it literally just takes a little bit of language that's in the motion and puts it
into the
warrant article, so,
Can I
it's language.
assume that since KP Law also represents Wenham,
We do.
you'll be making the same recommendations for the
Yes.
warrant, and you did, and they accepted?
I don't know where they are, frankly, in terms
They
of
closed
the.
the warrant, so I'm gonna guess, go out on a limb and say that Warren didn't let them. close the
Yeah,
warrant
I
without
haven't
our
seen,
input.
I did take a look today, actually, before I
Safe bet.
came up, to see if we had a saved version on the system, and I did not see the updated version, so, but I'm sure that Lauren has been in contact with Wenham.
Again, we're just closing the warrant, we're not, you're gonna play with the language a little bit here and
Okay.
there between the now and the time we print it, so I think we're safe to accept Tom's language, we have to make a
Yeah.
proclamation.
But we're removing the,
Petitions.
So I have here a kind of draft motion for you to remove Article 3-6 and 5-1, right, that's the citizen petition one, and then close the warrant as
Okay.
provided.
And then, so Articles 3-1 is the sale of the portion of the Patton Homestead. 3-2 and 3-3 are the leases of the landfill, former landfill property for use as a gun club / shooting range. Those are all staying on the warrant?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the prudent investment rule.
Okay, that's staying as well.
I
Okay,
think the
great.
board's okay with that now.
Yeah, definitely the investment rule. I didn't know if there was further discussion on the leases. I think we had a good discussion, but I think I'm good with that, and the homestead stuff as well.
Okay, so I'll take 3.6 and 5.1 off.
Okay.
After they vote.
After they vote.
After we vote. And the only comment I made initially around the debt exclusion being way towards the end, I know you have it with capital, I guess, I don't know, but I just feel like it flows, and I know we can talk ordering later, right? But I don't know, I didn't know if it made more sense to put it.
We can talk order later, but.
Sure, it's really up to the board's discretion
Yeah,
in terms
I don't
of
know,
where
it just
you
feels
think
a
it's
little bit disjointed to me relative to just the expenses required from the towns from an operating and a capital. I think the back-to-back with the schools would be, to me, kind of, are a more of a, two chapters of a story, but.
Sure.
But we can talk about that.
Right,
I don't know if
and
other
I will
other
say
members-
that the typically Articles 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, and 2.10 and 2.11 not the stabilization funds are not, because those are 2/3 vote, but the other ones are usually included as part of the consent agenda.
Okay.
So they're kind of closer.
Yeah, exactly,
in
if
the
they go in the
warrant than it-
consent, for
than it
sure.
would appear.
Yep, I wasn't
Yes.
thinking that, yep,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, with those changes, I'm okay with, closing the warrant at this point with the articles as outlined and written.
Right, one last comment I had was that I know that that there have been some discussions about potential amendments to the regional school district agreement as well.
I don't think, I don't think that we're at the point to have that conversation.
Okay,
It's-
that's fine.
We're too far away still.
And the water bill.
And I
Right.
spoke with Wenham there, and they're feeling the
They're
same
feeling
way.
the same way, okay,
And
right.
I do not believe there's any, they closed the warrant. I don't believe they have.
They did
anything
not
on the
include it
warrant.
either, okay, yeah, I wasn't sure if they
We-
had
we
it on
may-
their final
We may
version.
choose to provide an update to town meeting about them, but.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, in a report or
You know, I
something.
have a question.
And then I didn't know as well if, were we gonna try to impact the water rates in some way, or is that already locked and loaded in from our earlier discussion on rates, that's
So
after?
Again, the water rates decision is the select board's decision, it's not a
Right,
town
okay.
meeting decision. So again, we can
No, you're
provide,
right.
we can provide updates to town meeting, it's a good place to get people's attention and let them know things that are coming, or we could provide the one pager that we're gonna put in the tax bills, in the water bills, into the, as a handout as well, but we can do a lot of different things, but
Yep, okay.
we
That's
don't need
right.
a town meeting vote.
That's right, I just was reading the language and it talks about, okay, you're right,
You
you're right.
I think Beth and Jeff also has his hand raised.
Okay.
I think.
Beth, you were first here in the room.
Yeah, I just have a question on Article 2.8. Has the meals tax always gone all back to the HDC? Is that part of, is that in an agreement or something,
Yeah.
or what is?
It was used as the carrot in getting town meeting to vote for it initially. So when the town first adopted it, it was decided at that point that they would do it to help fund the HDC's
So if I
efforts.
went back to when it was originally voted in, it would say that meals tax is for HDC?
I don't know if it would say it in the warrant question, but the question was presented to town meeting voters, this is what we would do with it.
Okay, so if it's not in the town warrant, then there's a question of maybe it could be used a different way.
There's always a question that could maybe be used a different way because the town.
I don't know,
meeting-
I'm just curious about that.
Just to clarify, one town meeting can't impose its will on a future town meeting. So just because the town
Oh,
meeting
right,
voted
right,
one
right,
way,
right.
that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that another future town meeting can't change their mind. However, the board, we've had many conversations
Right.
with the
No, I was
board
just
and
curious
over the
about
last
it.
7 years that I've been here, and it's always been decided to leave it with the HDC. In fact, the town worked with the HDC and the finance committee last year to come up with a new process for making sure we were giving them the right amount, and that's what.
How
we're
much
going to-
income are we talking, do you know how much income we get from the meals tax?
It's like 75,000.
Oh, okay. Thanks, John.
In-
If
in
I
full-
came to
in-
FinCom meetings,
In full
I would know.
transparency, it's a lot more than that. this
Yeah,
year.
was it
There was a-
120?
True up the
There was a
state.
large one-time disbursement from the state. We've asked the state several times. Wendy's asked, Scott Mattern has asked from the HTC, because we were just concerned because it was such a big
And what was that number?
change. What was the number, Wendy, this time?
It's 107.
I believe the total is gonna be about 174,000.
Okay.
But that's, so about
That was a
100,000 more than
one-time.
usual, yeah.
Okay.
But the state has said it's a one-time disbursement to kind of true up. They may have made another error at some point, and now they're trying to make it right,
And-
but
And so are there financials available from the HDC?
Yeah.
Because they make their own decision on how that money's used, correct?
they do.
They have full control, just like the school committee has?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So somewhere I could find that? Great.
Yep, yep.
Jeff, also?
Jeff?
Yeah, super quick. Hi, guys. Did you have any further clarity on whether we, for the leases, what the terms of the lease had to be for a town meeting presentation, and also for the requirement of another RFP? Since we had gone through an
You wanna go through that,
RFP,
Tom?
I just wondering if we really need to do that again.
Yeah. So Jeff's point is that the Miles River Marsh routes just went through an RFP process.
Right.
When they got this renewed 6 years ago, they're wondering if they need to go through the RFP process again. We already believe the Hamilton Winter Run Gun Club does need to, because it's been so long since an RFP was done for that section of land.
Right.
Tom was the one that recommended the RFP process and everything else. We discussed it last Wednesday's meeting. I'll let Tom explain.
Sure, yeah, thanks, Joe. Yes, and in my opinion, it is required. So the last time that this went out to bid, there was a RFP was solicited for a 5-year lease term, which is now expiring. So the
Right.
RFP did not include, if it included a 20-year lease term back then, and that's what was awarded, then you would not have to go out for an RFP. In fact, you probably wouldn't need a town meeting vote right now either. But because it was a short-term lease last time around, it, the terms of that RFP have been satisfied, and there's no ability to just renew the lease without going through an RFP process.
It's a state
con-
requirement.
Yeah, General Laws, Chapter 30B, Section 16.
Can't put like options in.
Correct, well, you can, but once, if it was done in the original procurement, you could have certainly done that, but that wasn't at the time. There was a policy decision made not to do that. But once you get to, it really goes by dollar value, so it's $35,000 for real estate, and it's the value. It's not necessarily what they pay in rent, it's what the value of that property would be, and the longer the lease term, the more likely you're gonna obviously exceed the $35,000
So
threshold, so.
we're gonna also try to get an appraisal of those two plots as they sit.
Okay.
With all of their warts, and see what that is, to try to help us discuss what the value is.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay, so it would be a completely new RFP after, so you get your town meeting vote and to negotiate the leases.
Yeah.
And then the RFP is, where does it stand in the process?
Well,
We'll
I'll start
start-
asking
Right.
KP Law to draft 2 RFPs, one for each parcel, subject to some terms that we'll outline. We have to get an appraisal done, so we have at least an idea of the true value, but we don't have to hit value if we get a response. If we only get one response, for instance, and it's less, we can choose to take it if it's leased, so we'll get that stuff done in this period now, so we should be able to release the RFP very shortly after town meeting, assuming that town meeting votes to approve the term.
Would we want to do that even if they don't? Would we want
Would-
an appraisal on this? Or
We can do the appraisal thing, again, like I said, the properties are both very kind of
Yeah, not
conflicted.
usable. Right.
But,
I'm kind of wondering, do we, you can actually renew a lease for 3 years without town meeting?
we can, but
Is it-
your request has
is
been,
it-
yours and the gun club's request has been for 20, so that you
Yeah,
could make investments.
long-term planning.
And long-term planning, that's why we're here looking at the
Right.
articles.
Right, but could we not also renew for 3 years?
Tom?
We'd have to look at it again. It's gonna depend upon the value,
Let me
how
have
it's
council
structured, but.
let me have council take a look at it, Jeff, and we'll get back to you on that. But that's kind of subject from, that's kind of separate from this decision as to whether or not to ask town
An
meeting.
interesting notion, if you could actually renew a lease for 3 years without the town meeting. I know you wanted to coordinate our 2 leases, which I'm fine with, nothing wrong with that. But, if we're able to actually secure a lease for 3 years without town meeting, it would be interesting to us to do that, certainly, while pursuing the longer term.
I'll have Tom look into the legal question for you. In the meantime, let's see if we can get these onto the warrant, and then I can talk to the board about what they prefer to do long-term. I do think that if we're going to commit one piece of property for 20 years, we may as well have them both committed and have, subject to similar terms, so that if something comes up in 15 years that we want to talk to you about, or you want to talk to us about, there'll be options for all that in there, but I think we could look at both things at the same time, but it'll really be up to the board. Once they're granted the authority, it'd be up to the board to decide whether they want to go with a longer term or short term.
Okay. And we would prefer long-term. I'm just throwing it out.
Yep.
There's sort of a nuance here. If we're able to secure, short-term, be secure, that's always an option too.
Sorry, I got lost for a second. Is the main concern about an open RFP? Is that what,
Is that what you're concerned about, is the open RFP process, John? I mean.
Yeah, more so. I mean, we put
legit.
in a lot of money and a lot of, a lot of manpower, and we've improved the site. We've done a huge amount of work. So it would be an interesting issue for us that an RFP goes out.
somebody else comes in and offers more money, and then we have to look at
Risk of it, yeah.
So just so for my like small brain, I'm just running out of brain cells just so I understand it. So then our question to Tom from KP Law is, okay, like let's say we go through this process at Town Hall, it gets approved, it gives us the authority to basically structure a 20-year lease agreement, but we'd have to go out to RFP. The question that we have to Tom is, if we don't select that option, can we just extend it by 3 years if the Rod and Gun Club decide that they don't want to take that risk of going out to an open RFP?
You'd have
So
to
that's
take a
our
look
question.
at it. I can say my inclination is no, but I can.
My inclination is no, we cannot extend
Legally
them
correct, yes,
a
but
3-year
but we
lease.
will
Okay.
take a look into it for
Okay.
sure. There's other options. You can enter in a license agreement. A license agreement is not subject to bidding, but license by definition must be revocable at will by either party.
The other thing I'd say is that, the vote here is actually to ask town meeting to authorize you to do a 20-year term lease for a gun club. So the RFP is gonna be for people who operate gun clubs. There aren't gonna be a whole lot of respondents.
Yeah,
You're
right.
really
And
shrinking
there's
your
fairly
bid.
limited uses you can make of that. It's
I
a
imagine
closed
that's
landfill, right.
So I think Jeff's concern of being outbid for a piece of property that they've improved over the last 6 years.
Yeah.
While I understand it, it's not like there's a huge number of, shotgun clubs out there looking to get, 4 acres in the town of Hamilton, so.
But you're not appraising it as a gun club.
No, we didn't praise it for the use, because we're asking specifically if if you'll be authorized to do a 20-year lease for the gun club use, so
Okay.
we will appraise it for that.
Okay, so
Thanks for that.
okay. All right, I'm good with that.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
And
Thank you for.
yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Yeah.
I think the only other thing we didn't talk about, and I'm pretty good to close this, but was there any more update on the Patton homestead, or is it similar that we're just looking for the ability to negotiate? We still have some things to learn along the way, or have you learned something since last?
Our discussion was just 5 days ago. I haven't had the time.
Look at all we've
to
discussed.
do more of that. Yeah.
Every
We're
Thursday
kind
is
of
a
exactly where we
weekend.
were last
Yeah.
Wednesday. I'm just trying to see if we want to
Okay.
keep this on, and then we'll
Okay,
do the
I
other work.
would
Sure.
say we keep that on and close the
Okay.
warrant. I would be in favor of that
All right.
regardless.
Okay, so
I'll make a motion to
Yep.
close the warrant. Do I have to read the date and all that
Yeah,
stuff?
we close the warrant for annual town meeting April 11th, but
With the removal of Articles 3.6 and 5.1.
Yeah.
And as Joe filled in on the date and time.
Second.
So we have a first, a second, any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain, do a roll call, starting with Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Gluza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. Okay. Tim referenced this next item earlier. As you know, we all know, unfortunately, Jay Butler, who was an amazing person and volunteer for our community, passed, I think, on February 12th. We had some discussions about dedicating the town hall edition in honor of Jay, with all the work and contributions he did for that program. Without it and his role with the CPC, we could not have funded that program. So any further discussion on that? I think if everybody's in agreement, which I think we were on the last meeting, we can take a vote on that. But first, I'll entertain I'll take a motion, first of all. So Ben, since you're in the room, I'll look to you.
Motion to recommend that we name the Town Hall Edition in honor of Joseph J. Butler.
Second.
So we have a first, we have a second. Further discussion, comments?
No, I just think it's a great idea and it's a very fitting honor for Jay.
I agree.
Yeah, same here, 100% supported, great idea.
100% support here. So let's take a vote. Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben Galuza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, an enthusiastic aye.
Okay, I'll give you a little background on this latest item. The review and approve letter to the planning board regarding the proposed cell tower behind the public safety building. If you remember last year and a half ago, I guess it was last year, the planning board was hearing a request on site plan review for the antique fire department building, antique fire thing here. And because technically the fire department didn't own the land, you needed to provide a letter supporting the fire department representing the town's interest at that site plan review. We now are going to have a site plan review coming up for the second cell tower behind the public safety building. The cell phone tower company does not own the land, the town does. This planning director is asking for you to provide similar type of letter acknowledging that the bidder, Infrastructure Partners, is authorized to go before the planning board due to the fact that they have won the right to develop that tower as we have been asking, and they are the ones that are going to have the requisite information to share with the planning board about that tower.
So through the special permitting process,
Right,
they would go
they'll
through.
be going through the planning board
Okay.
special permit process for cell tower development, and that includes site plan review. So the letter there is a draft. I can make changes to it, but that's pretty much the same kind of letter you sent last year.
Yeah, it looks straightforward to me.
Yeah, I think it's, urgent and important, to help shepherd this along, so we increase our ability to kind of generate some revenue as we did with the last tower, and then potential windfall if somebody decides to buy it out. That was a huge positive for the town.
It was.
I think, it's a much better deal for us than having a bunch of little towers sprinkled around town. I'm a little concerned about that, digging into this. So I think the sooner that we can help shepherd this through, the better.
Absolutely. And Everest is the same company that built the one behind Town Hall, so they're a known entity and they've been through the process. So I'll take a motion. Do we need to vote on this?
Yeah.
To approve the letter that's drafted and in your package from our chair, Bill Olson, to the planning board for the proposed cell tower behind the public safety building.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, we got a second with Tom, starting with you, Rosie.
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Tom?
Tom Myers, aye.
Ben?
Ben Galuza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. We're at that point of new business. We got a lot of business going on. A couple things interested me tonight that potentially, yeah, we're good. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Tom.
great. All right, have a good
I didn't
night.
realize how close or not we were on the regional district agreement, so that should be an item I think we bring up. I didn't know that was even potentially a topic for this town meeting at this stage.
We just like about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, we got an updated version, a red line version of the district agreement as drafted by Lauren Goldberg of KP Law on behalf of the two towns, Hamilton and Wenham. I think there still needs to be a little bit more discussion and, among that board, among that group of people that is meeting to review it, and then we can bring it back to everybody. I hadn't got changes from Tom or Bill Olson, who were both been made aware of the draft. So once we get some changes, I'll try to schedule the next meeting so we can go over with them. But it did not seem like Wenham was interested in moving on that at this point in time right now either.
Okay, we'll just keep that on the radar.
Is there a way to get a copy of that red line version yet?
It's still in development, so it's not really we're not sure what's gonna change, so it's, I don't think it's ready for, public scrutiny yet. It's just.
And if we did public records request, we could get it?
When, I think when it's, I'm not sure, I'll have to run it by
Okay,
town
that's
council.
fine.
Pretty sure the exempt from public records anyway.
Yeah,
Policy development.
and policy development, it's not done yet, so when we have something that we want everybody to vote on, that will be public. It'll be.
We haven't seen it.
Yeah, it'll come to us.
No,
and-
I know, I
I
was
know.
just curious to see where we're at and
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
stage is.
Yeah.
We agree.
Cause it's like, sometimes you're like, we got in too late, we didn't, we got in too early. I'm like, where are we in the process of? like,
Yeah,
trying
I'm
to
curious
get
what's
it?
just
We-
edits and
Yeah, we
narrative
had
versus
been making
material.
some progress through like October, and then kind of, it became really difficult. People were being pulled in different directions for
Oh,
budgets
totally,
and
it makes
development stuff,
sense,
and so
yeah.
it just didn't get very.
I think it's
far-
too much
far.
anyways for people to digest.
Do you have any? No, you can make the next motion then.
I'd make a motion to adjourn March 2nd meeting.
All right, can I get a second?
Rosie, okay.
Let's do a roll call vote to adjourn. Rosie?
Rosie Kennedy, aye.
Myers, aye.
Ben?
Palooza, aye.
And Bill Wilson, aye. Thank you, everybody. It is 10:06.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.